Ladies and gents, boys and girls, welcome. Thursday, August the 17th, 2023. Hope you're all doing well. Chris Phillips here, your host of the Daily Crow of the Spurs Up Show. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. We have got a jam-packed show here on this Thursday. Tons to get into as we're obviously back into our normal noon to 3 time slot. Let me say yet again, thank you all so much for rolling with the punches yesterday. Obviously, with the trip to Atlanta, which, by the way, chop on. Braves get the dub and the sweep over the New York Yankees. Had a lot of fun. 2-0 victory. Had a really, really good time in Atlanta. The Battery's awesome. Truist Park. And anytime the Bravos win, that is a good night. But great to be back in the saddle as normal. We're live today. We're live tomorrow, noon to 3 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on YouTube here on the Daily Crow. I see Austin Miller, John Edward, Bryce Jeffcoat, Brendan M., Austin Gregory, Brian Dean, John Edward, Ethan K., and GA. What's up? Also, those in the Big Cock Club Discord. Head over to the TDC Questions channel, the TDC Questions channel, to be sure your questions are answered there. Very excited to chat with each and every single one of you guys. Again, we got more fall camp updates. We're talking defensive backs. Also, in our third hour, of course, our Q&A power hour, taking your questions, comments, calls. And in our second hour, no Mark Ryan, as Mark is actually out of town this week. We got my good friend Blake Ruffino of AYS Sports, guys. You may have seen me on there before. We always have a fantastic time talking ball with Blake. Blake is a LSU man, but we're going to talk all things SEC football as well as the LSU Tigers as they get ready for their season opener against the Florida State Seminoles. Again, guys, we are just 16 days. Did I recall that correctly? 16 days, right? Yes, 16 days away from kickoff here. In 2 weeks, we'll be talking all things Gamecocks in North Carolina, breaking it all down, dissecting it, diving into it, getting into the nitty-gritty. Cannot wait for game week. Also, guys, yes, a quick reminder. I see, who was it? I see Brian Dean wishing well on the vacation. Thank you, sir. We are going to Montana next week. What that means, there will be no TDC next week, but the podcast will drop every single day. We got some fantastic interviews coming you guys' way every single day. Daily interviews on the podcast. Those will drop at 5 a.m. Eastern time, by the way, next week. Since there's no live show, we'll be able to get those out in the morning. Really excited for that. There's some great combos, guys, that are really going to get you geared up, not just for South Carolina, but college football as a whole as well. Again, guys, want to say thank you to J.C. Sherbert, Phil Molinax, and Jamie Bradford, Inside the Gamecocks, for having us on the show this morning. Had a really fun conversation. And as fall camp continues, guys, the rumor mill continues to heat up. It's you know, I think what happens is this. I think we get to a point to where folks are so ready for kickoff, so fired up. They have all this pent-up energy, and it's got to go somewhere, right? And so any little thing that occurs, any small little thing, any tweet, any post, any thread on a message board, it gets blown up into this huge thing. The sky is falling. And that's where we're going to start. And if you were in the Big Cock Club Discord, by the way, you already know about all this. We updated our members this morning. Late last night, rumor begins to circulate. Pup Howard is hurt. Pup Howard is out for the year. I heard Pup Howard is out 6 weeks. Shoulder injury, leg injury, this, that, whatever. Grayson Pup Howard, in case you're unfamiliar, the freshman linebacker for the Gamecocks, who was expected to make a big-time contribution this season at some point. I've raved and ranted about him many times, is that, you know, he's a freshman all-SEC guy in my mind. Has freshman all-SEC written all over him. And so the tweet late last night, I'm going to pull it up here. The tweet from Grayson Pup Howard last night, which it's so funny, guys, because when a guy like Grayson Pup Howard or a recruit or whoever it is, when they sign on to play college football at the University of South Carolina, this applies to any big-time program, any big-time school, what have you. they are representing something so much bigger than themselves that it's like your personal life and anything you're doing that's not South Carolina football related, we don't care. We don't want to hear it. And everything you say on social media, we're taking it as it relates to South Carolina football. Now, I'm not saying that athletes don't post many things on social media that have to do with their status, their playing time. Like in this world of, Twitter X as it's now called, is such a huge thing that athletes absolutely use social media to voice their opinion, to voice what's going on in their lives that may directly be affecting their play. But it's just wild to me how a guy could be going through a breakup. He could be, he could have got his order. They could have got his order wrong at some fast food restaurant. It could be about anything. And if it's some cryptic tweet that's sent, it will automatically be spun into assuming the worst about that player. Anyways, Debo Williams. Grayson Pup Howard said this at 9:47 p.m. last night. God writes the story. That could literally be about anything. Literally anything. But he says, God writes the story. Now, what does it mean? What does it mean? I have good news for you all here on this Thursday. And the latest as we know right now, this was fall camp today. Grayson Pup Howard was out at practice wearing a blue no-contact jersey, but was out there running around, going through everything. I have good news for you all. I'm here to calm Gamecock Nation. The latest that I'm hearing on Grayson Pup Howard, and again, if you were part of the BCC Discord, you would have known this morning. The latest that I'm hearing, was it an overreaction on Twitter, message boards, an overreaction from many in Gamecock Nation? Yes, it was. Is Grayson Pup Howard dealing with somewhat of a nagging issue? Yes, he is. Is it anything that's going to keep him out long term? No, it is not, based off what we know right now. Is there a high probability that Grayson Pup Howard plays in week 1? Yes, there is, unless there's some other setback or some new injury that occurs. But as of right now, yes, there is. So the good news is this. It's nowhere near as bad as folks thought it was. And again, guys, I just think we're to a point where people are so starved for football. And here's what's unfortunate with these practice reports, guys, because we've been so conditioned to the coach speak and kind of ignoring it all, right? It's like, oh, who cares? You feel great. Who cares? The offense looks good. Who cares, right? Like who gives a damn? It's all coach speak. Go do it on the field. Go do it in a game. And I've told you guys, I take most of what's said in fall camp with a grain of salt. So, I'm not blaming you guys for that necessarily. But it's unfortunate, the only thing that it feels like can come out of fall camp that people take as relevant is injury reports. That's it. Just injury reports. How are guys doing? Injury reports. That's it. And so folks really read in between the lines. Let me say this about fall camp, guys. And to echo what Shane Beamer said over the weekend. Now, if we get to game 1, if we get to game week, and it's this time 2 weeks from now, and guys like Juice Wells still are on the field, and guys like Pup Howard are still in a no contact, or, guys' status has become more and more and more questionable, well, then I'm going to be somewhat concerned because that directly affects that ball game. But as we sit 16 days away from kickoff, echoing what Shane Beamer said, guys, here's the reality. The first day of fall camp was the last day that anybody on this roster was going to feel 100%. Bangs and bruises happen. You get nicked up, you get banged up, you play through it. It's just the reality. Welcome to football. I mean, that's it. It happens. And they're going to be extra cautious and extra careful with these guys who get nicked up, who get banged up, especially with a guy like a Trey Knox, like a Juice Wells. There's nothing to prove in fall camp. You are a veteran. You're a starter. We know you're a starter. It's more detrimental, I guess you could say, detrimental for a guy like a Grayson Pup Howard because he's a true freshman trying to win reps, win a job, what have you. But I'm just someone that let's not hit the panic button. You know what I mean? Let's not overreact and create more of a problem than something actually is. We get to game week and these injuries are lingering or new injuries come up. Hey, then we'll have a different conversation. Then we'll have a much different conversation. But I think as of right now, the Grayson Pup Howard thing specifically. Now, what's the status of Juice Wells? Still hasn't been on the field. We don't know. He was absent from practice today. Nicholas Harbor absent from practice today. What does that mean? We have no idea. Did he wake up late? Did he have something for school? I mean, I don't know. I would just say, guys, take a deep breath. Kickoff is near. And all of these preseason injury reports and reading in between the lines of practice reports, it's almost over. And that's the best news I think I can give anyone. It's almost over. We're almost there. We're just near the finish line, and people are starting to lose their cool. But the good news is this. Grayson Pup Howard should be fine. Nowhere near as bad as folks thought it was. We'll continue to follow his status. But these people saying he was out 6 weeks, out the entire season, and I hit my guy up and just said, is it anywhere near the reaction? Is it anywhere near as bad as the reaction on social media? He said, absolutely not. Completely blown out of proportion. He's banged up. He's been banged up. He's been banged up. That's it. He's been banged up. Now it's just coming to the forefront. So, anyways, that's your good news. Grayson Pup Howard should be fine. Think he's fine. But the bottom line is this. It's just nowhere near as bad as maybe folks were originally giving it credit for. So, and that just goes to show you, be careful who you listen to on social media, man, because some people out there will just literally say anything. Anyways, let's get to more important things. Fall camp updates, specifically coming from yesterday. Bunch of defensive players speaking. Nick Eamon-Warry, Debo Williams, Tonka Hemingway, Jatius Gear, a bunch of notable players. And there were some things that stood out for sure. And, of course, as you guys can tell, I'm also in the mode of reading in between the lines, what have you. But that's what we have to do right now. But I thought there were some very interesting comments, interesting quotes that came out from yesterday's media availability and some things that are standing out at this point. The first thing that jumped out to me, guys, Nick Eamon-Warry talking about the defense. And I know, obviously, we are very excited for Nick Eamon-Warry, for E-Man, and what he's going to do and what he means to the defense. And folks absolutely should be. Hearing him say that this is going to be a much more balanced defense, I thought that was an interesting comment. You know, we've talked a lot about, and of course, we'll dive more into it in a bit with talking secondary and continuing to break them down. But finding more balance in the defense is something that we have talked about, right? In regards to slowing down the run game and not being such a one-trick pony in the sense of, okay, you can stop the pass, but you get gutted on a weekly basis in that running defense. He spoke on the depth at linebacker, spoke on guys up front, spoke on the front seven specifically. And that they feel as if they're going to be a more balanced defense. That was music to my ears, man. That's what South Carolina needs. And as I mentioned yesterday, I don't want to see the secondary fall off. That's not what I'm saying. But I would be more than happy to see South Carolina give up 20 to 30 more yards per game passing if it meant that the rushing defense wasn't such a liability. Because, guys, here's the thing. Everybody's throwing the football now. Everybody is spreading it out and throwing the football. And you're going to give up big plays, sure. But you can still win with that. You as long as you're not terrible in the back end, you can still win games that way. The problem is when teams are running for almost 200 yards per game. Because giving up passing yards, that's annoying. Giving up those rushing yards is demoralizing. And it wears out a defense, and it wears out your front. And at some point, if you can't stop the run, you don't have a shot to win. You just do not have a shot to win. So hearing that from Nick Eamon-Warry, a more balanced defense, none of us want to see the secondary take a step back, but a more balanced defense, we absolutely want to see this season. Thought it was interesting to hear also Torian Gray making the Cam Chancellor comparison to Nick Emenwari. That dude, I'm not a huge NFL guy, but I know who Cam Chancellor is. And that is an elite, big-time player. If Nick Emenwari can live up to that billing, live up to that comp, South Carolina is in a really good spot. Emenwari also mentioned facing Nick Harbor. Said, quote, he's a freak of nature. I'm a freak of nature. And the first thing my mind went to was just iron sharpens iron. Iron sharpens iron. Best on best, good on good. It's only going to make South Carolina better. When you got guys like that facing off against each other, we talked about Nick Harbor and adjusting to the SEC level and adjusting to playing wide receiver at this level. And you're going to face guys like Nick Emenwari. Absolutely. You're going to face dudes like that. And so being able to go up one-on-one against a guy like E-Man, it's only going to make Nick Harbor better. And to hear that from those guys and hear that from E-Man specifically, it's one of those things you do really love to hear. You also love to hear young defensive backs are pivotal for this group. Jelon Kilgore, the way that Nick Emenwari raved and ranted about him, saying he's impressing, we're taking him under our wing. Nick Emenwari and DQ Smith are. It feels like Jelon Kilgore is one of those guys. We're hearing the name so much, right? He's one of those guys that's going to slide in seamlessly and just be the next great freshman defensive back at South Carolina. And like when Marcellus Dial and Fortune, these guys start to leave, Emenwari, Smith, like I think Kilgore is going to be a guy we probably look at in 2 years and it's like, okay, he's DB1. Like he's our top corner. He's our top safety. Like he's going to be one of those guys just based off all that we're hearing about him. And obviously, of course, you look at his game and his recruiting profile and all that, and it speaks for itself. But the way they're ranting and raving about this kid, that is something you can pick up from fall camp, right? When you continuously hear a name over and over and over again, that says a lot. I also thought it was interesting to hear E-Man say a young but experienced defense. Shane Beamer mentioned the youth of this football team, how they'll be relying on youth. And I get what he's saying because there's a lot of guys who are going to be playing this year on that defense specifically that have played snaps, but they haven't been starters or they are younger players in their own regard. Redshirt freshman, sophomore, whatever. I mean, you look up front, TJ Sanders and Nick Barrett. These are guys that they've played, but it feels like they haven't been in feature roles. So they still feel like young players. You also have guys like a Jatius Gear off the edge who, he's not an old player, but first year at South Carolina, but he's played college football, but first year in Columbia. You then look at linebacker and guys like Stone Blanton, Debo Williams, who are youngsters in their own right. Jerron Willis is brand new. Mo Kaba, even heck, he missed last year. So, I mean, he still kind of feels like a young guy with some things to prove, if you will. And then Emenwari and DQ Smith themselves are still young, just sophomores. And then all that crop of freshman defensive backs. So, and that goes to, like you hear people say all the time, the returning production in South Carolina. They're ranked 12th or 13th in the SEC, and there's not a lot of returning production on the defense. And folks get confused by that because it's like, wait, well, I've seen these guys play. But there just aren't many returning starters. There's just not many guys that are returning that have been in these feature roles, and now they all get their opportunities. Other things, guys, that stood out from yesterday, from defensive players speaking specifically, Debo Williams. Guys, loved what he had to say. Debo Williams, again, is admittedly a guy that, last year I kind of was like, what are you really going to be able to get out of this kid? He's a Delaware transfer. What's the ceiling for him? But I loved hearing yesterday the self-awareness from Debo Williams in the sense of Debo Williams, he may not have the ceiling that a Grayson Pup Howard has. He may not have the ceiling that a Stone Blanton has. But you know what you can control? You can control effort. You can control discipline. You can control toughness. You can control how much film you watch. And so hearing Debo Williams say, I'm doing everything I can as a veteran to be the smartest football player I can be. Guys, that jumped off the page to me. It jumped off the page. It probably won't be something that moves the needle to most, like whatever, coach speak. But to have the level of self-awareness, be like, you know what? Maybe I don't have, and I'm not saying Debo's thinking of himself this way, but it's like maybe he doesn't have that high-end skill set that a guy like Pup Howard has. But taking it upon yourself, like, you know what? I'll make up for it in my fundamentals. I'll make up for it in, my technique. I'll make up for it in being a leader on the defense. He talked about, putting people in the right positions and third year in this defense now. He'll make up, he's like, I'll make up for it being the smartest player on the football field. That goes a long way. And I think a great comp that, the guys over at Inside the Gamecocks made this morning while we were on the airways with them, Shaq Wilson to a Debo Williams. Now, is he going to be as good as Shaq Wilson? I'm not going to go that far. But if he can be that type of player, you don't have to be the star. Every Batman needs their Robin, right? You can be a supporting cast piece and be a great supporting cast piece and help this football team win games. Guys, Jatius Gear also spoke on the scheme, said he loves the scheme. It lets them play free and use their athleticism off the edge. And it just makes me even more excited to see what Travian Robertson is going to do with this group. I'm not coming into it, guys. I mean, you guys have seen the grades. The predictions are out there. I mean, we're winding down on preseason content. My thoughts, everything, expectations, predictions, they're all out there, well documented. So I'm not coming into the season with unrealistic expectations or thinking this defensive line all of a sudden is going to, be top 6 in the SEC at stopping the run or make some unrealistic leap. But I am just curious to see, does the defensive line look different? And over the years, while Travian Robertson is defensive line coach, how much different does it look? Because I think there's going to be an impact, right? And when you're talking about the scheme and playing free, using that athleticism, it brings me directly back to T-Rob. It brings me directly back to Travian Robertson and what he's teaching, what he's implementing, the things that he learned from the late, great Brad Lawing, implementing those, using those, instructing his players with those things. I think it's going to spell major success for South Carolina. I really do. And I'm excited for a guy like a Jatius Gear, like a Jordan Strawn, Terrell Dawkins, Tyreek Johnson, Brian Thomas Jr., those guys off the edge to, for that to be implemented and to see what the dividends pay off. Maybe the defensive line can join the offensive line. Those two units can overachieve and excel and be a little bit better than maybe we think going into the year. Finally, guys, the quote of the day coming out of Wednesday was from Debo Williams. Number one, the football guy t-shirt. Phenomenal. And the fact they gave those out, incredible stuff. The football guy t-shirts are awesome. But the quote that stole the day was, quote, when asked about his mentality, quote, I wake up and think kill. That was the quote that really jumped out that, was the needle mover for content and social media, what have you. But, Debo Williams has always had that fire about him. He's got that edge. He plays that energy, plays that spark. And again, it's a guy that I think he makes up for maybe not having as much talent as some others. He makes up for it with great intensity, great energy, great attitude, and obviously great intellect as well, the way he's studying film. And hearing that from him, I wake up and think kill. I mean, it's just a great mentality you carry into the season and something that I think the entire defense obviously will embody. So all in all, guys, great updates coming out of fall camp as the finishing touches go on before South Carolina takes on North Carolina in Charlotte in just 16 days. Guys, let's jump into our first break of the day. On the other side, we're going to talk Gamecocks defensive backs here on this Thursday. All that and more. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow. The Daily Crow is brought to you by our friends at Carolina Cigars. Carolina Cigars has been in operation since 2008, recently taken over by the Peterson family in 2020. Whether you're new to the cigar scene or whether you've been enjoying cigars your entire life, Carolina Cigars has the expertise and knowledge to make your visit to their shop enjoyable. Stop by for a fine cigar and experience their classic cigar lounge where people come together, share conversations, and become friends. So if you're into cigars and you're on Hilton Head Island, you really do need to go by and see them. They offer same-day shipping nationwide, free delivery island-wide for weddings and all special occasions. They're also proud to offer premium cigars at 9 outside humidor locations around Hilton Head Island, and they have special events throughout the year as well. They want to talk to you. They want to engage. They want to share with you their cigar selection they're very proud of and their beautiful cigar lounge. When you're in the Low Country, there's only one place for cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, and there's only one place I get my cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, Hilton Head Island's premier cigar merchant. Come and share your passion. It's all here at Carolina Cigars. Give them a follow on Instagram at Carolina_cigars, or give them a call today at 843-681-8600. That's 843-681-8600. Smoke them if you got them, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya. Daily Crow is also sponsored by Rhine Law Firm, LLC, principally managed by James R. Rhine Jr., located at 1350 Ashley River Road, Suite 650, Charleston, South Carolina, 29407, serving the greater Charleston area.
Muscle doggy ho.
All right, guys, we're back here on this Thursday, August the 17th, 2023. I want to say again, thank you to each and every single one of you for tuning in, guys. Be sure you go check out tsus.store. You can get this shirt and many more over there. TheSpursUpShow.com is where you can also find us. Guys, we have an update, by the way, on buy kickoff delivery. Let's say you're going to the game in Charlotte and you want your merchandise by kickoff. Your buy kickoff delivery, or excuse me, your order date, your last day to order for guaranteed buy kickoff delivery is going to be this Sunday, August the 20th. If you order after August 20th, you might get it before kickoff. You might, but I cannot guarantee it. So do yourself a favor, go to tsus.store, get your merchandise today, and make sure you gear up before the Gamecocks take on UNC in the Queen City. Guys, really excited to be chatting with you all here on this Thursday. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. With that being said, we'll keep the conversation rolling. The Gamecocks defensive backs look to be yet again the strength of this defense. Which defensive back stands out amongst the rest entering the 2023 football season? Let's spare ourselves the dramatics, eh? When you look at this secondary, lots of talent, a lot of talented pieces. But there is one guy that stands out amongst the rest, and his emergence last season was one of the best storylines of 2022. And guys, I'll take you all the way back to spring of 2021, a fun story on, of course, Nick Emanwari is who we're speaking on. We all know the importance of recruiting, identifying talent, right? Stars are important, but being able to identify talent. Maybe there's a miss in recruiting. Maybe a guy is misevaluated. But being able to see that, to pounce, to get the offer out, express your interest, and land that kid is pivotal. That's the case with a Nick Emanwari. I'll never forget talking with Eric Kimry when he was on staff. And I was asking Kimry about the importance of obviously recruiting, but the star system and star rating and what really makes an elite recruiter. Like, what defines an elite recruiter? And he said, Chris, listen, your five-star guys are studs. They are. You're a five-star for a reason, right? Your five-star guys are studs. Most of your four-star guys are really good. He said the difference, though, in an elite recruiter is being able to tell the 100th best prospect from the 250th best prospect to the 600th best prospect, right? And being able to identify, because those guys are all three stars at that point. So how are you able to identify that talent? Who best fits your culture? Who best fits your scheme? Who can you develop? Nick Emanwari is a case of that, believe it or not. He specifically mentioned Nick Emanwari in that conversation back in, it was early summer of 2021, guys. Emanwari wasn't even on campus yet. And he said, Chris, we had this kid, this Nick Emanwari kid, come to our camp. He goes to Irmo. And we couldn't believe this guy hadn't been garnering more interest, more attention, more big-time offers. Love his size, love his speed, and we offered him. So the expectations coming in for Emanwari last year as a local kid, they were high, but nothing crazy. But then you started to hear his name. You hear about that number 21, that Emanwari kid? And what followed last year was, nobody could have seen it coming. Led the Gamecocks in tackles a season ago with 85. One tackle for loss, did not have a interception. I expect that to change this year. But what he meant, and what he means, by the way, this year, but what he meant to South Carolina's defense last year. I mean, he was so good, guys. He beat out a pair of veterans to earn a starting spot. R.J. Roderick and Devontae Reed. Scooch out the way. Here comes E-Man. Beat out a pair of veterans to win that job. And the thing that I really love about his game and excited to see, obviously, number one, his growth and development as a leader He mentioned that yesterday in his media availability, talking about, they're putting it on me. I'm still a young guy, but to be more of a leader in the back end of the defense, to lead some of these young defensive backs that we have. And I'm also just excited for his overall game, right? A guy that you feel comfortable with in regards to pass defense and handling his own in the back half of the defense. But also a guy that is more than happy to put his face in the fan, if you will, stick his nose in the dirt and lay somebody out. And that was never more evident than last year. And when you really knew, you're like, this kid's built different, right? You really knew he was built different. Week 2 against Arkansas. Second ever collegiate game. And you're facing a guy in KJ Jefferson. I mean, he's built like Cam Newton. Like huge quarterback. Physical specimen, right? And Nick Emanwari met him in the hole and delivered the blow with no hesitation. Zero hesitation. Was more than happy to meet him in the hole and deliver the blow. And that moment you said, okay, this guy is built, he's built differently. He's built differently for sure. So when you talk about impact guys and players on the defense that are most important, Nick Emanwari is that dude. He's that guy. He is the latest in a long line of great safeties, great defensive backs at South Carolina. What he does with DQ Smith, it's so valuable in the back end. Will he lead South Carolina in tackles again? I mean, guys, I hope not. I mean, the fact that your safety led you in tackles, I think that kind of says something, right? He's having to come up and clean up the mess, right? With that being said, I mean, a guy that if asked to do so, he will, he can, he's more than capable of doing so. And I'm expecting even bigger and better things from Nick Emanwari this upcoming season. Guys, that being said, let's keep the conversation rolling here, talking Gamecocks defensive backs. What will define success for South Carolina secondary in this upcoming season? A secondary that has been so good for the Gamecocks over the last 2 years. The job that Torian Gray has done, taking a group that was one of the worst in college football in 2020 and guiding them so quickly. I mean, the turnaround was overnight. Guiding them in 2021 to being a top 10 unit nationally against the pass. And then last year, being yet again one of the best in college football. As we've talked about, and I mentioned earlier, Nick Emanwari spoke on it, bringing more balance to the defense, I think, is pivotal. Because, again, giving up passing yards, I mean, it's frustrating, no doubt. But you can still win ball games. It's just frustrating. You can still win games. You can bend but not break in that scenario. When you're giving up almost 200 yards per game on the ground, you just don't have much of a chance, guys. It's demoralizing. It's not frustrating. It's demoralizing. When that other team can line up and they can just run it down your throat, it's demoralizing. And I want to believe that more balance, maybe not a lot more, maybe not a ton more, but more balance will be brought to the defense in this season. South Carolina last season gave up 207 yards per game through the air. That was about 30th nationally. Pretty good, though. Pretty solid numbers. In today's age of college football, pretty good. Fun stat for you guys also, South Carolina finished 6th nationally a season ago in completion percentage surrendered at 53.7. So the Gamecocks, there's no denying, were very good against the pass yet again. 207 yards per game allowed last year. I'm going 220 yards per game or less allowed. There's a couple of reasons why I'm going a little bit higher than last year's 207 yard per game total. Number one, I do expect somewhat there to be more balance defensively. Does that mean that the secondary bends a little more because teams have to throw the ball more? Yes, it does. In my model, yes, it does, which is not a bad thing. 220 yards per game is still very respectable. The other reason, South Carolina is replacing both of its top corners, Cam Smith and Darius Rush, with Marcellus Dial and O'Donnell Fortune. And anytime you're replacing those guys like that, it's a question mark. The third reason, guys, look at the offenses you play. I already mentioned the front half of the schedule, Drake May and UNC, Carson Beck and that array of weapons at Georgia, Will Rogers in Mississippi State, Joe Milton in Tennessee, Connor Wegman in Texas A&M, Devin Leary in Kentucky, Cade Klubnik and Garrett Riley in Clemson. So, I mean, you're going to be facing some really good quarterbacks and some really good passing offenses. The numbers could feel somewhat of a hit, a slight hit. But South Carolina has more than enough talent in its secondary to withstand that. 220 yards per game or less allowed. I think that's more than doable for this group. I think that will absolutely spell success for the secondary. Guys, something that just jumped off the page to me. I could not believe this statistic. As we've talked before, this is a huge year for Clayton White, right? It is. Call it for what it is. It is. The defense needs to take a step forward. So you look back at last year, it's like, well, what gave them so much trouble? Why did they struggle at times to the degree at which they did? Like, what was their Achilles heel? Guys, I'm not sure if y'all knew this. South Carolina was one of the worst teams in college football at getting offenses off the field. South Carolina surrendered 43.4% on third downs. That was the third down percentage against the Gamecocks defense a season ago. That ranked 114th nationally. If South Carolina is going to take a step forward as a defense, that has to get fixed. And it's one of those things that just jumps off the page at you and screams at you. Okay, well, this is why the Gamecocks struggled so mightily at times a season ago. They couldn't get off the field. That's got to be fixed going into year 3 of Clayton White. And the secondary has a lot to say about that, a lot to play into that, right? Not giving up those, it's going to be third and medium more than likely. But being able to stand tall, because you already know probably at this point, 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, depending on the opponent, could be tough. And that's just a tough situation to be in no matter what. And that's the other thing it tells you is that, hey, maybe South Carolina was in a lot of 3rd and shorts, which is where offenses want to be if they're going to be 3rd down. So there are multiple factors that go into it, but this secondary leading this defense in improving on 3rd down, getting better on 3rd down, because 43.4% allowed, that 3rd down percentage, that's not going to cut it, man. You're going to continue to struggle if that number stays true into this year. Guys, I also want to see Marcellus Dial and O'Donnell Fortune make a seamless transition. Marcellus Dial, I think we feel good about, right? 3 interceptions last year, a veteran guy. Nick Emanwari spoke on him as like he's a pro. He's a pro. Just comes in, takes care of his business. Love to hear that. O'Donnell Fortune's the one that I'm a little bit nervous about, but I think could be a really nice player. But I'm not saying Marcellus Dial and O'Donnell Fortune need to be Cam Smith and Darius Rush. They're their own players, and we can compare and contrast all day long. But what South Carolina needs is just to not feel some major drop-off there. To not feel the after effect. And we've talked about it before. You don't have time for that. The schedule's not conducive to, okay, well, let's take 3 or 4 games to kind of get our feet wet and establish ourselves and find out who we are. Like, no. You better be ready. You better be ready in all facets, but especially on the outside at corner. Marcellus Dial, O'Donnell Fortune, making that seamless transition in those starting roles, going to be pivotal for this secondary this year. I also want to see Nick Eamon-Warry build off his monster freshman campaign. And he doesn't have to, eclipse the tackles total. As I said earlier, I'd rather him not do that. He doesn't have to eclipse the tackles total or do anything, really out of the ordinary. I think earning all SEC honors would be a good start. It's absolutely criminal that he wasn't on the preseason all SEC team. I'll have it known, by the way, I voted Nick Eamon-Warry first team all SEC. I'll have you all know that, by the way. But just seeing Eamon-Warry continue to evolve as a playmaker, as a ball hawk, as a reliable figure in the back end of that defense, I want to see that from man, right? Just build off that, continue to be that big-time playmaker for South Carolina, and I'm not worried at all. I absolutely believe that he will. DQ Smith, your other safety. I was asked to make a bold take, and it was asked a couple weeks ago about who's going to lead South Carolina in interceptions. DQ Smith is my pick. And for it to be a successful season for DQ, I think multiple interceptions, multiple picks is what I need to see. Number one, because he's capable. But number two, this defense is built off of being opportunistic. We know that. Generating turnovers. We know that. And so South Carolina needs more of that in this season. I look at kind of the safety spots, guys. I look at Nick Eamon-Warry as more of that physical, downhill, loves to get in the box, loves to play the run. He'll meet you in the hole gladly. I look at DQ Smith more as that Coach Simpson pass defense, kind of that rover back there that's going to play the pass and is going to be that ball hawk guy for you. Had one interception last year. I think multiple picks for DQ Smith is more than doable. Guys, David Spalding is a name we have not talked about a bunch. I need to see David Spalding save his best for last when it comes to Gamecocks. Only had 7 tackles last year. Didn't play a ton or make a ton of plays. That nickel spot, though, who slides there? Is it DQ Smith? Is it David Spalding? If it is Spalding, again, saving your best for last, right? Former Georgia Southern Eagle, 3rd year in the defense. Had that big interception against Troy back in 2021, the pick 6 that sort of sparked the comeback in that game, or sparked the victory, if you will. David Spalding, he's a veteran piece like a Debo Williams at linebacker. It's time for you to emerge and be a leader and play your best football. Can he do that? And finally, guys, when we're talking success for the Gamecocks secondary in this season, I need to see youngsters such as Jelon Kilgore, Keenan Nelson Jr., Zabari Sandy, Kawan Banks, Emory Floyd, Bakari Swain. The list goes on and on. I need to see these guys emerge, and I need to see these guys start making plays because we have heard about in recruiting, it seems like forever, about all this elite talent that South Carolina has been pulling into the secondary. And I know you feel good about your starters, but those young guys are going to have to play, right? We're hearing lots about Jelon Kilgore. Keenan Nelson Jr. was a guy out of Philadelphia that I loved on the recruiting trail when they signed him. Kawan Banks, a guy that played last year. Emory Floyd, big-time guy. Bakari Smith. All these dudes, they've all got potential. They're all capable. And under Torian Gray, that development should absolutely be there. Because as we all know, you're constantly Not only are you trying to win now and win as many as you can and coach up the guys you have, but you're developing the guys of tomorrow. Guys like Jelon Kilgore, Keenan Nelson Jr., they're going to be starters here probably next year. And so having these youngsters emerge and seeing these young guys with so much talent flying around, making plays, I think for the secondary to really reach its full potential and to live up to the high expectations, we need to see some of these young playmakers sort of come into their own, make a contribution, make an impact, because certainly there's an immense amount of talent in this room. And when you look at it across the board, South Carolina should be set to have a successful season yet again in the secondary. Guys, let's jump into a quick break. On the other side, we'll wrap up the conversation talking Gamecocks defensive backs here on this Thursday. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow. The Daily Crow is brought to you by our friends at Carolina Cigars. Carolina Cigars has been in operation since 2008, recently taken over by the Peterson family in 2020. Whether you're new to the cigar scene or whether you've been enjoying cigars your entire life, Carolina Cigars has the expertise and knowledge to make your visit to their shop enjoyable. Stop by for a fine cigar and experience their classic cigar lounge where people come together, share conversations, and become friends. So if you're into cigars and you're on Hilton Head Island, you really do need to go by and see them. They offer same-day shipping nationwide, free delivery island-wide for weddings and all special occasions. They're also proud to offer premium cigars at 9 outside humidor locations around Hilton Head Island, and they have special events throughout the year as well. They want to talk to you. They want to engage. They want to share with you their cigar selection they're very proud of and their beautiful cigar lounge. When you're in the Low Country, there's only one place for cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, and there's only one place I get my cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, Hilton Head Island's premier cigar merchant. Come and share your passion. It's all here at Carolina Cigars. Give them a follow on Instagram at Carolina_cigars, or give them a call today at 843-681-8600. That's 843-681-8600. Smoke them if you got them, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya. Daily Crow is also sponsored by Rhine Law Firm, LLC, principally managed by James R. Rhine Jr., located at 1350 Ashley River Road, Suite 650, Charleston, South Carolina, 29407, serving the greater Charleston area.
Muscle Dougie, ho.
All right, guys, we're back here on this Thursday, August the 17th, 2023. Again, guys, appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. I want to point this out really quickly before we go any further. Our friend Brendan M. dropped this in the Big Cock Club Discord. He says this, from Chick-fil-A news starting August the 28th, Chick-fil-A will introduce fall flavors with its first ever twist on the original chicken sandwich, the honey pepper pimento chicken sandwich, accompanied by the caramel crumble milkshake. Both items will be available nationwide. And the question is, what response does Robbie Zaxby's Hall of Famer Davis have in store for that? Zaxby's, you are on the clock. With that being said, I'm sure we'll hear from Robbie in the third hour, the Q&A power. I'm sure we'll hear a response. If I can spit it out, I don't know why I can't. I'm sure we'll hear a response from Robbie Davis at some point. But in the meantime, guys, we keep the conversation rolling. Do not forget, we got my good friend Blake Ruffino of AYS Sports jumping on at 1:15. But in the meantime, we close the door on the conversation, talking Gamecocks defensive backs. At this point, you've got to give Torian Gray the benefit of the doubt, right? It feels as if at this point that no matter who is in that room, what you lost, what you have back, what have you, no matter who is in that room specifically, Torian Gray is going to find a way to, number one, get the guys in that he needs. He's going to get those Jimmies and Joes, right? He's going to get guys with high-end talent, but he is going to develop and get the most out of what's available to him. Darius Rush is a perfect example of that. Admittedly, guys, 2 years ago, I thought Darius Rush, okay, he's a guy that wide receiver, converted to DB. We've all heard the story before, right? Oh, wide receiver couldn't catch, couldn't cut it at defensive back, or couldn't cut it at receiver. They're going to move him to defensive back. See if he can get some reps. Well, he's athletic, he's fast, so maybe he'll get some reps. Not only did Darius Rush play, guys, he just got drafted. He just had a pick six in a preseason game. Like, he's a legitimate NFL dude thanks to the development of Torian Gray. Torian Gray has established himself. And I know that every school will claim their position coach is the best one at their position. Let's just say this. Torian Gray has solidified himself as one of the premier defensive backs coaches in all of college football. And the first 2 years at South Carolina screamed that. I mean, you think about what he took over. 2020, it was one of the worst pass defenses in college football with guys like J.C. Horn, Israel Mukuamu, John Dixon, Jamie Robinson. I mean, some really, really good talent. So you're the worst in college football, and all those guys departed after that season, whether it was NFL draft or transfer portal. All he does is turn around and lead South Carolina to a top 10 finish nationally in pass defense. And then last year, we mentioned the stats. 207 yards per game allowed. Is one of the best in college football yet again. Not top 10, but top 30 pass defense. You ranked 6th nationally in completion percentage allowed at 53.7%. And the secondary more than held their own last season. Was it perfect? No. But the secondary more than held their own. So when you look at this group, when I was looking at it and you're giving grades, admittedly, it's a group where you look on it slightly more favorably because at this point they've earned that benefit of the doubt. The good news is this: there's also talent in that room. Nick Eamon-Warrior and DQ Smith in the back end, great place to start. It's absolutely criminal that Nick Eamon-Warrior was not a preseason All-SEC player. That's neither here nor there. But the season that Eamon-Warrior had last year, again, leading South Carolina in tackles, 85 total tackles, 1 tackle for loss, showing that instinct that most freshmen don't have. That willingness to put his face in the fan and make the big play. And week 2 against Arkansas last year really was that moment that turned heads where you said, okay, this kid's built different. You're willing to go up there and meet KJ Jefferson in the hole? Okay, now you have my attention. I think Nick Eamon-Warrior and DQ Smith are not only, great players on South Carolina's roster. I mean, I think you could argue, guys, it's one of the best safety tandems in the SEC. Truly. Both these guys, freshman All-SEC guys, freshman All-American, depending on what list you look. Gamecocks are in a really good position when it comes to the back end of their defense. You look at the nickel spot. You start talking about guys like David Spalding, who's played solid football for you. DQ Smith can slide there, but you've also mentioned Keenan Nelson Jr., who played in the bowl game. High-end talent guys. Maybe not quite as much experience, but high-end talent guys for sure. And then you go to the cornerback position. And I'm certainly not going to try to sell to you that there aren't question marks here, because there are. I mean, anytime you're replacing a pair of corners like a Cam Smith and a Darius Rush, all eyes are on who fills in, and can they fill those shoes? Can they fill that void left by those guys' departures? 2 NFL guys, by the way. In steps in Marcellus Dial and O'Donnell Fortune. Marcellus Dial, I feel really confident in. 3 interceptions last year. I mean, listen, is he going to be Cam Smith good? I don't know. But I think he's going to be good enough. I don't think there's going to be some major drop-off. But only time will tell. We'll learn a lot, because now the responsibility goes from, okay, you were playing nickel, you were the 3rd DB or whatever. Now you're lining up against that other team's best guy. Every week. There's nowhere to hide. You are on an island with the best player on the outside from the opposing team. Will it be Dial Island, as so many have nicknamed it to this point? O'Donnell Fortune's the one that I'm really keeping a close eye on. Because when it comes to Fortune, it's been a mixed bag. Just call it for what it is. It has. He's made some really nice plays at that 100-yard pick 6 in the Notre Dame game, in the bowl game. He also got thrown around like a rag doll against the Georgia Bulldogs when Brock Bowers went over him and mossed him and put him on a poster. Now, I know Brock Bowers does that to a lot of people, so maybe that's unfair to judge, but I can't get that image out of my head, guys. I can't get that image out of my head. So, how much of a step has he taken over the course of this all season? How much has he grown? How much has he progressed? Outside of that, the big thing is depth. I think depth at corner, I think it could be better. It's not exactly where you want it to be. I think Emory Floyd's going to be a nice player. Jelon Kilgore, we mentioned. Keenan Nelson Jr., we mentioned. Kawan Banks, who played a lot. He'll play a lot yet again. Bakari Swain, all these young guys. I think they'll be able to develop depth. I mean, you trust Torian Gray. That's what I'm saying, the benefit of the doubt thing. I think they'll be able to develop that depth. But there is somewhat of a lack of depth right now. When you look at this defense as a whole, though, secondary is not the concern. Are there question marks? Sure. Guys, great teams have to replace players every year because they've got guys like Cam Smith, like Darius Rush, who are good enough to play at the next level, and they go. And they go. That is a good problem to have. And Torian Gray has established and shown, and there's a lot of talent in this room, by the way. Torian Gray deserves a lot of credit. They've also just recruited really well. There's good players in this room. But Torian Gray has shown, I think, and again, he's earned that benefit of the doubt where you give credit that a lot of these questions are going to work out in a positive manner. There might be some that linger, and South Carolina secondary is going to be tested. And I mean, they're going to be tested early. There's no grace period. There's no, let's get our feet wet and get used to college football for a couple games, and let's just kind of figure out what we have. Now, you got North Carolina and Drake May out the gate. You got Georgia and that array of weapons week 3. You got Mississippi State and Will Rogers week 4. Got Joe Milton in Tennessee week 5. Like, we're going to know by the end of September what this secondary is. There is no doubt about it. With that being said, I like your crop of starters. I like the way they've recruited. I think Marcellus Dial will fill in nicely. We'll see about O'Donnell Fortune. I think Nick Imamori and DQ Smith, you could argue it's the best safety tandem in the SEC. And I think they will, and Torian Gray has shown his track record. They're going to develop these young guys. And although there may be some dicey moments early, I'm not going to sit here and tell you, hey, there may be dicey moments early, no doubt. You're just playing some really good passing offenses and, might be a shaky start somewhat. But I think when the dust settles, when it's all said and done, I do think the secondary will be a strength again. I think Nick Imamori, DQ Smith, again, they're going to do their thing in the back end. I think Dial's going to be a nice player. Fortune very well could be. But even if he's not, even if he's shaky, I think you've got enough young talent as the season progresses to find a guy, to fill in that role. And you've got talented pieces that I think can alleviate some of the worries there. So when it comes to the Gamecocks secondary, I'm going B+ for an overall grade. I'm going B+ for this unit. How does it compare to last year? I think it could be better than last year, guys. Because let's face it, like, respectfully, disrespectfully, whatever, I don't care how you want to take it. Like, R.J. Roderick and Devontae Reed were your starting safeties last year. You are worlds better. There's a reason that those guys lost their jobs to DQ Smith and Nick Imamori, right? You are worlds better at safety. Are you still going to be solid at corner? Can Dial and Fortune fill in those shoes of the departed Cam Smith and Darius Rush at corner? That's really going to define, is this a good secondary? Is this a great secondary? But either way, lock me in with my grade. I'm giving the Gamecocks secondary a B+ heading into this season, and I think it will be a strength of South Carolina's defense yet again. Guys, we're going to jump into a quick break. On the other side, I got my good friend Blake Ruffino of AYS Sports. He's an LSU man by trade, but he loves talking college football, as do we. We're going to touch on all things LSU, SEC, and more here on the other side of this break. You're tuned in to The Daily Crow. The Daily Crow is brought to you by our friends at Carolina Cigars. Carolina Cigars has been in operation since 2008, recently taken over by the Peterson family in 2020. Whether you're new to the cigar scene or whether you've been enjoying cigars your entire life, Carolina Cigars has the expertise and knowledge to make your visit to their shop enjoyable. Stop by for a fine cigar and experience their classic cigar lounge where people come together, share conversations, and become friends. So if you're into cigars and you're on Hilton Head Island, you really do need to go by and see them. They offer same-day shipping nationwide, free delivery island-wide for weddings and all special occasions. They're also proud to offer premium cigars at 9 outside humidor locations around Hilton Head Island, and they have special events throughout the year as well. They want to talk to you. They want to engage. They want to share with you their cigar selection they're very proud of and their beautiful cigar lounge. When you're in the Low Country, there's only one place for cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, and there's only one place I get my cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, Hilton Head Island's premier cigar merchant. Come and share your passion. It's all here at Carolina Cigars. Give them a follow on Instagram at Carolina_cigars, or give them a call today at 843-681-8600. That's 843-681-8600. Smoke them if you got them, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya. The Daily Crow is also sponsored by Rhine Law Firm, LLC, principally managed by James R. Rhine Jr., located at 1350 Ashley River Road, Suite 650, Charleston, South Carolina, 29407, serving the greater Charleston area.
Muscle Dougie, ho, Dougie, ho.
All right, guys, we're back here on this Thursday, August the 17th, 2023. Once again, I want to say thank you all so much for you all tuning in. Also, those in the Big Cock Club Discord, thank you all so much for the love, for the support. With that being said, really excited to get him on. One of the best in the business, always brings the energy, always brings the heat down there in the Bayou. Our good friend, Blake Ruffino, AYS Sports. He joins the airways. Blake, what is going on, my friend? It's great to chat with you once again. Hey, let me say this. First things first.
Okay.
Thank you so much for being flexible, being able to do this. I obviously
problem.
hit you late last night. You were like, let's do it. Let's talk some ball. Let's jump on. Also, I want to say, man, I really respect your humility because I have been seeing, because you're a bit of an LSU insider. For those that don't know, I've been seeing all these Barstool articles or different articles out there about Livy Dunn and Paul Skeens. I'm like, my guy Blake Ruffino had this months ago. You was texting me at the college or from the when the College World Series is going down. Hey, just FYI, Paul Skeens, Livy Dunn, it's happening. And you sat on this for months. I respect that about you, man. But hey, LSU insider for sure, because those are the juicy news stories we need. I feel like.
If I wanted clicks, I would have gone sources. Paul Skeens and Livy Dunn are making out, after he showed up 8 straight innings up Wake Forest Keister. Like if I really wanted clicks, but man, I'm glad to be here. I don't know if you saw me in the background, but that song, man, getting you pumped up for football, brother. Like it's time to go, man.
We try to keep the blood pumping here on this show, man. Keep people
tell.
fired up. I don't think people need my help, though, man, because we've reached a point in fall camp and preseason camp, whatever, where, every single little, this guy's wearing a blue jersey. What's going on? Sound the alarm. He's not playing this year, So we reached that point where the pent-up energy it's got to find a way out, and typically it's reading way too deep into fall camp reports. That being said, of course, Blake Ruffino, AYS Sports, he's an LSU man by trade, so we'll start with the Bayou Bengals. Blake, on the note of fall camp, the fight heard around college football, I feel like that really made waves, right? With the brawl at practice, this guy's getting escorted out, that guy's getting escorted out. What did you hear from that? Because when I think about it, I'm like, okay, like that's good. I think that means you're ready for kickoff, but you had some people trying to spin it as, in this transfer portal world, all these clashing personalities and the culture's not great. What do you say to those people, and what's the latest on LSU fall camp and kind of the fallout from that whole deal?
Let me just say this, Chris. So we get pretty much full access. So, like, we're at all the practices from start to finish. Like, so we'll be out there Saturday for the full scrimmage. And so Brian Kelly's been very, what's the word I'm looking for? Generous, to give that. Chris, I have a broken hand from college where I threw a punch at a helmet like an idiot. Okay. Like, come on. All right. So fighting, it's the hottest that the state's ever been. We had, I think, 12 straight days of 102 plus in this state. It's hot. Okay. I'm just going to let you know, if another man's leaning on me in 102 degree heat, he's going to get punched too. Okay. I'm just letting you know. Look, man, if you're not fighting, if that's not happening, you're not going all out. And so the issue, though, if there is an issue, is Denver Harris, the 5-star defensive back from Texas A&M, which is crazy because they've had 3 5-star dudes that A&M recruited that are now off 2 teams, and Denver Harris, could have been a third, but Brian Kelly addressed it. He was kind of in the mix of a couple of little push arounds and fights. Look, man, offense. The truth, Chris, is that it wasn't really necessarily Denver Harris, even though he kind of started. It was because Jane Daniels is lighting it up like a Christmas tree around here. Yesterday, we were out there. They worked red zone drills in the first 5 plays. Jane Daniels, the first 4, I should say, all 4 of them were passing touchdowns, and then the 5th one came up short. They go to team drill, and they run the ball twice. The first pass from Jane Daniels was Malik Neighbors in the back of the end zone, bang, tutty. So we're going to have to find out Saturday, and I think the defense is just being frustrated, but we're going to find out a lot Saturday about this team because Jane Daniels and Garrett Nussmeier, the backup who threw for 300 yards against Georgia and a half, they're lighting things up. So this is not 2019 LSU. Don't get it twisted. But Joe Burrow was looking like that too now. So I just want to let it be known that since the access that we have, they have been lighting things up. Saturday is going to be a very big day for everybody to see where this team is. But the defensive back room, Brian Kelly addressed it at SEC Media Days, has been he wasn't lying. So we'll find out how it happens Saturday. But overall, as a team, I think they look good. But the fighting, Chris, it's just like everybody's looking for content. Did you see the fight with the Cowboys yesterday?
I did not.
Well, first off, like human beings were getting body slammed. All right. Like this happens like every year. Like get over yourself. Oh, they fought. Okay. All right.
The only other fighting I think I've seen is Travis Kelce throwing the haymaker. That's about it. Yeah.
They're the Super Bowl champs, Chris.
Right. Like, it's football. Yeah, it happens. It happens. If you're not having one good scuffle in fall camp, do you even care? Are you even trying?
I really had. So I had a position coach one time. He wasn't my position coach, but his name was Matt Webb. He was the DC and linebackers coach at Southeastern Louisiana where I played. And there wasn't any fights. We're like 2 weeks into camp. And so he just like, y'all are a bunch of, women, and and he's like, there ain't nobody slinging. And then, man, before you knew it, Mark Newbill, 5'11" linebacker who had 150 tackles in FCS, played a little in the league. He comes out there and starts squaring up, and I'm like, look, man, I'm going to kick you right in the balls. Like, don't square up on me, okay? I ain't done nothing to you. So, look, it happens, man. When you got dudes out there and 85 alpha males, Chris, it's going to happen. There's going to be punches thrown, so it is what it is.
Blake, in fall camp, it's always one of those things where it's like, well, the offense looks really good. Oh, now I'm worried about the defense. Or it's like, oh, man, the defense they're way ahead. They look great. Oh, what's going on with the offense? Is it a situation with LSU? Does it cause any concern for you that the secondary is going to be a liability? Because I know last year that was a concern area for you guys.
Yeah, it worries me defensively. Like, Chris, it really worries me. But I mean, it's like a double-edged sword, because I think that the three wide receivers that they have, look, Orgeron recruited at a really high level, okay? Specifically at wide receiver. He's got three dudes that are going to start that are going to more than likely get drafted in the first 3 rounds. Malik Neighbors being another guy that he's more Justin Jefferson than anybody on this team. And LSU constantly, Chris, just continues to have DBs, wide receivers that play in the league. There's a reason that they're number 1 on the list. It's a reason they're up there for a reason. It's because they're constantly producing that position. It does worry me that it really worries me that the DBs have gotten beaten the way that they have. But on another token, if you have, or the other side of that, this offense has 10 starters returning. If they weren't hitting on all cylinders, we would be saying, okay, well, they haven't taken the next step forward. So that's why I say I'm not trying to cop out and say that let's wait till the scrimmage, but in a way that I am, because, look, there's some situations where you don't have a pass rush, yada, 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 yada. But I just really think this offense has been at a different level. Look, I was out there yesterday, and I'm going to watch the Big Uglies, where my fat butt played. And usually, Chris, on one-on-one O-line, D-line pass rush drills, when you're one-on-one, it's a benefit to the defense. It always has been, always will be. O-line didn't give up nothing. And I'm like, uh-oh. Because if they're not giving up against Harold Perkins, Deshaun Womack, and others, if Harold Perkins can't get to them, then what in the hell do you think anybody else in the country is going to be able to do? So that's the point where I'm like, uh-oh. All right, so we got something here. So offensively, they've been almost flawless. They had one really bad day. The defense, the day after the fight, believe it or not, the defense didn't let nothing happen. They clamped down. They were letting out 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. So I was like, oh, okay. So they're just trying to figure stuff out. So it's been a really good camp. I will tell you, it is a night and day difference from Brian Kelly to Orgeron, like night and day. And I think it's been for the benefit of this team. They're really deep. I would compare this team to the teams that LSU had in the early 2010s, right? Like when it's like, oh, damn, dude, they got dudes. They just didn't have a quarterback. Well, now they have a better coach and they have a better quarterback. This team has gotten back to their form, okay? And you could just tell that they have. I think the hype is real. And if you don't get to where you want to be, I ranked them as the number 3 team in the country. People said I'm biased. Okay, well, last year I went undefeated with my top 10 rankings. Booyah, bia. Okay, all I'm going to say is this team's coming. And week 1 against Florida State's a playoff matchup. I fully believe that. Can they take down a giant in that defensive line unit with Florida State? That's what we're going to wait and see.
Okay, we are back. I think our stream platform just took a major crap on us. Either way, Blake, my apologies. We will blame that on the Muschamp Packers, which is what we normally do when things absolutely hit the fan or go sideways. So
The stream was going so good, man. They tried to kick us out.
I know.
blame Kirby Smart.
You were spitting fire, man. I think it was too much fire. I don't know what happened. So
Kirby Smart had something to do with it with his bowl cut. You said Muschamp.
Yeah.
Kirby's involved in this too now.
There's not a guy out there who looks more like a fan of his team than Kirby Smart does. He looks like every Georgia frat dude who ever existed. So, yeah, it had to be him. It had to be him.
Oh God, so great.
So, anyways, I'll let you get back to it, man. I know you were talking on fall camp, and we'll move into actually because you and I spoke about a month ago. Which again, I appreciate you doing that. The SEC team preview series we did, and obviously you did a great job talking Bayou Bengals and everything.
Yep.
You mentioned at that point that game against Florida State. You know, you labeled it, I think, as the most important game or a really, really pivotal game. As we sit now, I guess for you guys, it would be 17 days away from kickoff, but just over 2 weeks. How are you feeling about that game? Is it still kind of the same mindset? I looked yesterday, actually, and the spread still sits at 2.5. LSU is the favorite. You know, there's been mixed reviews on Florida State. You know, you've got some people, and of course, they're preseason ranked 8th in the country for what it's worth. But some people think this is the year, FSU, college football playoff. Others think they're vastly overrated and they could finish unranked. I mean, has your feeling on that game swayed at all? And just how pivotal is that game for LSU to kick off 2023?
I think it's funny because everybody talks about Florida State being, overrated. But my problem is Clemson lost to 2 SEC teams too. So how are you going to put Clemson in there? And I know that I'm on a South Carolina show, but the truth is, like, what are we talking about here? South Carolina clapped them Clemson cheeks, okay? So let's not act as if that Florida State was building into something. From an LSU perspective, I still feel the same. I think that they are the toughest team that LSU plays in the regular season. I don't think it's remotely close. I think that the defensive – and now not only the defensive line – but if the LSU DB unit's going to struggle, Chris, they got dudes, man. They have dudes. They were coming into their own last year. They're a 10-win team. There's not a lot of teams in the country that can say that they're a 10-win team. They got better. They didn't get worse. So how is a team that didn't really lose anybody, returning everybody, adding key pieces like Keon Coleman on the outside, how did they get worse? Braden Fisk had like 47 offers when he hit the portal. 47. Bama, Georgia, LSU, Notre Dame, Clemson, South Carolina, Florida, Texas A&M. Everybody offered the kid. And they're like, and then all of a sudden he goes to Florida State and they're like, oh, he sucks. Then why'd you offer him? Okay, like, you idiot. So they are the biggest matchup. And LSU's got to get off the ground in week one, because if they win week one, Chris, you look at a team that's undefeated going into Tuscaloosa, then we got something here. But you got to win week one. You cannot just lose this game. I do think it's bigger for Florida State because they have Clemson a couple of weeks after that. But LSU needs to get off, since 2020, they lost to Mississippi State, they lost to UCLA, they lost to Florida State. Let's start off the season with a win here, okay? That's what I want.
Blake, let's drive around the SEC a little bit. We'll start in the SEC West and some of the top storylines that are coming out. It was just announced that Peyton Thorne has been named QB1 at Auburn. What's your thoughts on Hugh Freeze and that program? And I think this year's is going to be a bit of a mixed bag. I thought you heard that with Hugh Freeze at SEC Media Days, where it really felt like he was pleading for patience from the Auburn fan base, which good luck with that. But what's your thoughts on, as a team in the SEC West, Auburn is one of those that's, going to be an arch nemesis for you. I know with the schedule changing up, right, you don't play them next year, which is really strange, but you have them on October the 14th. But does it worry you at all? Not this year, right? Because I think 6-6, 7-5, that's probably where they're going to fall. Does it worry you, though, moving forward, what Hugh Freeze is building? You see them, what they're doing in recruiting. Like, how much of a factor do you see Auburn being under Hugh Freeze in the years to come?
Willie Taggart could be the head coach at Auburn. They'd still worry me from an LSU game perspective. They always play LSU tough. the one thing that everybody continues to talk about with Auburn, everybody wants to know the quarterback. Oh, Hugh Freeze and his quarterback. Well, I don't want to really, I know that Peyton Thorne's going to be announced and that he's going to be the guy, but you don't go out and get him if he wasn't going to be the guy to start off with. I don't know why this is like some breaking news. Like LSU went and got Jane Daniels a year ago. But I was like, oh, well, he's not going to start. Yeah, yes, he is. You don't go get a quarterback if he's not going to play. My thing is that they've got better on the offense and defensive line. And when Auburn's right, they are good on both lines of scrimmage. They go and get two offensive linemen out of the portal that are going to start for them. They got a couple of guys along the defensive line. I don't think they're as bad as some people think that they are. I've seen them, last in the West. I don't know about that, man. And I also don't think that Peyton Thorne's going to – I still think Robbie Ashford's going to play a significant amount. I know that I talked to Jay Crane. I know he comes on to your show, and he has echoed some of the same things. I agree with him. I don't think that Peyton Thorne's going to be able to hold off Robbie Ashford for long. I really don't. I think because that kid showed a lot of moxie. Well, Blake, he threw for 49% completion percentage. Okay, sounds good. He also was running for his life, right? He was running like zombies were after him in I Am Legend, okay? Like the dude was just running for his life. So I do worry about when we go and play Auburn, I do worry about them because I still think they're a really good team. They're a really well-coached team. And look, if you think that Hugh Freeze can't beat you, he beat Arkansas while he was at Liberty last year. He's got more talent at Auburn now. So let's not act as if that he can't come in the SEC and start winning some games. I got them around 7-5, 8-4. They're going to have to upset some people if they do that. My Jesus, I hope it's not the Bayou Bengals. That's what I hope.
Blake, what's your take on the situation right now happening in Alabama? Obviously the talking point, the quarterback thing, a happy Nick Saban is the worst thing. No everybody should be scared. Like, what's your, because you not so subtly, obviously, when we spoke, name the position that Bama is better than LSU, and you just went down the list. And, it's funny, we had our good friend Chris Marler on, who's joining us now weekly, and he loved to bring up the point that, LSU struggles, I guess, against Alabama, 2 wins over the last, decade by a combined 4 points or something, and they haven't won back-to-back against Bama in this. But people love to lean on the trends, and I get that. But your thoughts on Bama? I mean, I know that, you look at it from a certain way because you want LSU to top them, but I feel like it's really they obviously they still don't have a quarterback. They still don't have a quarterback. They don't know who their quarterback is, and that seems pretty pivotal going into this year.
Chris, I've always had this take, and it's either worked for me or hadn't, but it's normally worked for me. I look at 4-year windows, okay? I look at recruiting class windows. So if you are 2-2 against a team, okay, which LSU and Alabama are, both of them have won a national title. Both of them have played for the SEC title multiple times, okay? Both of them have an SEC title win in that. Recruiting, Alabama has had the edge, but portal-wise, LSU's had the edge. And where a lot of portal guys have – look at LSU as a whole, as a university. The portal has changed Louisiana State University. It's going to change it again because Aaron Anderson, a wide receiver from Alabama, is coming to LSU. If Jalen Milroe's their quarterback for 12 weeks, thank you. Thank you. Okay, I don't mean to be rude, but who's it going to be? They're good at a lot of position groups. You can't deny that. They're probably going to win 10 games in the regular season. You can't deny that. But when I look at their position groups, they're not like who they used to be. They're not what they used to be on that defensive front or offensive line. I saw Ryan Fowler posted something yesterday on Twitter. He's like, do you think this offense is going to be better under Tommy Rees? And 65% of people said yes. And I'm like, what are you? Please give me what you're smoking. Okay, you scored 40 points last. Chris, they averaged 40 points a game last 2 years under Bill O'Brien. Butt chin and all, okay? I got one too, but butt chin and all right? You mean to tell me that this team's supposed to be better? Where? Like, they're not better at quarterback. If they have success they're going to go back to their roots in 2010s, 2011s. They're going to run the football. They're going to play good defense, and they're going to get after the quarterback. That's how they've always done it. That's if they have success, it's because of that. But let's not act like they have transcendent quarterback play. They don't. Jalen Milroe, go please, Jesus, sweet God, watch the A&M game and tell me that they have good quarterback play with Jalen Milroe. I'll wait. And you guys saw Tyler Buckner a year ago. Everybody's like, oh, he looks so great. He caught 3 picks. I mean, he threw 3 picks. What are we talking about here? Oh, well, he won. And my grandmother at times can throw to a wide open receiver, for crying out loud. And that's not a shot at South Carolina. That's not a shot at anybody. Brother, he was out there getting beat by Marshall, and I'm supposed to come in here and say he's going to win in the SEC? God, get out of here with that, man. Like, you can say, oh, well, the trends. Show me where they are better. Because when that ball's kicked off in week 2 against Texas, look, I don't think Texas is as great as some people say, but they're not going to be slouches. They got dudes up front. All right? I think Alabama's going to win that game, but okay, you better be ready.
To your point about Tyler Buckner, too, it's funny. Like, I was listening to a Notre Dame show, and they were mentioning, Tommy Rees, good on him, paid his dues, glad to see him get that promotion or get the opportunity with Nick Saban.
Right.
They were confused by the Tyler Buckner thing because they were like, we don't want him. Why would Alabama want him? Like, we don't think he's good enough. So, to your point, man, that definitely – I'm not saying Nick Saban's lost his fastball, but that felt like a desperation play, man.
It was really, a desperation play.
It felt, just to kind of, get people in the quarterback room know, like, hey, let's send a message. This isn't good enough, but Buckner's not going to play. Like, we know he's not going to play. Moving through, Blake, the rest of the SEC West, we'll go to Texas A&M. Thoughts on they're impossible to figure out, man. I tell myself every single year, I'm not going to buy stock in Jimbo. I'm not going to buy stock in A&M. But then, like, you look at them on paper and you're like, they're loaded. Like, they're loaded with talent. With at least on paper talent, they're loaded. They win less than 8 games, he should be fired.
I agree.
Is that fair?
I agree. Yeah, I agree because, look, they have 4 defensive linemen that are going to be drafted in the first round. I mean, like, what are we talking about here? They are, and I've said this since I think probably last January or February. They are the most intriguing team to me in the SEC. When Petrino got hired, they are the most intriguing team in the SEC because, of course, they're either going to go 5 or 7 or 9-3, right? Either they're going to be the 2nd or 3rd team in the West, or Jimbo's getting fired. They have guys too, man, and the question becomes. I think that Connor Wegman is going to be a pretty decent quarterback. I think that they got their QB there. They are losing some guys. I saw their tight end's going to be out for the year, but they got Jake Johnson, who was a borderline 5-star recruit. Like, they have guys all across the board. Can they figure things out offensively? The one thing that people need to remember, the number 1 team in the country in pass defense a year ago, Texas A&M. They allowed the least amount of passing yards in the country last year. Defense was not their issue. Defense was never their problem. The one game last year that they got really pushed around in was Florida State. Florida. They had 20-something players out with the flu, okay? Their entire defense was out with the flu. Oh, okay. Well, I'm not – what am I going to do with that? Everything else, they were pretty flawless defensively. I look at them and say, if Bobby Petrino figures this out and they actually do what they need to do offensively, they could be an 8-9 win team. But the problem is I never trust a man that wears a Velcro hat, and Jimbo does. So he wears a Velcro hat, and I don't trust him.
That's very fair. Honestly, that's a psycho move.
Do you trust a man that wears a Velcro hat?
I do not.
Me neither.
I do not. I'd probably trust a man that wore Velcro shoes more than a Velcro hat, to be honest. Maybe at least then I feel like you're making some type of fashion statement, but Velcro hat does nothing for me. Yeah.
I got to admit, I used to wear Velcro shoes back in the Gap, the Walmart brands.
Yeah.
I was like, look, man, I'm a G up in this thing. Never pulled any girls up from it, though.
Not surprising, my guy. Moving to the SEC East, Blake, you guys draw Florida and Missouri from the East. how annoying are the Missouri Tigers? Because that just feels like a team that they're the redheaded stepchild of the SEC. I mean, Blake, I have Gamecock fans. I literally saw a Gamecock fan tweet this, and I have Gamecock fans tell me this. They say, Chris, and South Carolina's lost 4 in a row to them. I'm sure you knew that.
Yeah.
They say, I don't care if South Carolina loses every year to them. Missouri's not better than us. And a lot of teams in this league feel that way. Like, I can't imagine the disrespect. I know Missouri has like 48 fans, but like, I can't imagine the disrespect you would feel if your team won a ball game and that opposing fan base just kept saying, well, we're still better than you just because. Like, but they're annoying. Like, they are that fly in your soup. They are that that stub your toe on the nightstand type of team to play. Like, you don't look forward to playing Missouri. And again, LSU is a team that has certainly felt that over the years.
And going to Como.
Weird place to play. Very
weird place to play, like 11 a.m. And look, Blake Baker was the linebackers coach at LSU before he became the DC at Missouri. Chris, defensively, they're going to be really good again, man. I hate to say it. And look, they're my sleeper team in the East because of their defense. But here's the problem. Offensively, they couldn't score with a girl who's a 3. You know, they think that they can score with girls that like are 7 or 8s. They can't score with a girl that's a 3, right? Like, they couldn't score a goal if the goalie was pulled in hockey, okay? They are not good offensively. The problem is there will be in every game because defensively they're really good. I did a film breakdown on them for a couple of games. It's not that they have the best overall talent in the SEC, because they don't. The issue that when you play a team like that, if you are not fundamentally sound against Missouri, you're going to lose. And look, like I put on the Georgia film from last year. Everybody's like, oh, well, Georgia just had a bad day. No. What happened was Georgia was fundamentally not good, okay, through 3 quarters of that game and almost got beat. And if they did not start playing more fundamentally sound football, they were going to get beat. I just don't buy the stock in Eli Drinkwitz offensively. You know, like I really don't. I know that Missouri changed the new NIL rule and recruiting, which may buy Drinkwitz some time because he's going to get, I think Ryan Wingo, the receiver from Missouri, is starting to trend to them. They got the number 1 player in the country. He might buy some time. Defensively, they're good, but offensively, they couldn't score if their life depended on it at times. So I do worry about them because of how good they've been defensively. But other than that, like offensively, I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever.
And then, Blake, you guys draw the Florida Gators from the East as well. And there you go. That's become, people describe it as a rivalry. I mean, would you say it's a heated rivalry? It's a rivalry. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
What do you make of Florida, Billy Napier? Because they're recruiting their tails off. I mean, he's doing everything he can in recruiting. The problem is he may not get the time to see it. Like he may not get the time to enjoy the fruits of his labors that he's putting on the recruiting trail. Your thoughts on Florida? I mean, obviously, I think Graham Mertz is not very good. That's just my opinion. We'll see if maybe he's a miracle worker in Gainesville. And I'll tell you though, Blake, it's weird to come into a season and be like, the Florida Gators football program has an over-under win total of 5.5. Like, that's just weird. Because and I just, maybe fairly or unfairly, but I still think in my head, I'm like, Florida still has dudes, right? Like, they have to. Like, they're Florida. How could Florida not have dudes? But I don't know, man. The Gators are, you got Graham Mertz, you got a 29-year-old DC. Like, I don't know what in the world to think about that team this year.
I will tell you, I like Austin Armstrong a lot. I know Austin. I've known him for a long time. I've known him probably since he's like, I think he was 19 or 20. He was a GA. I've known Austin for a long time. Look, there's a reason that Saban hired him. I do believe that Saban was going to make him his next DC after a couple years. I fully believe that. But he is young. Did you watch that spring game?
I didn't catch all of it, but I mean, the best part, which all I needed to see was Lane Kiffin's tweet trolling them, is like 7-3 in the fourth quarter. That pretty much explained the entire story. But I saw bits and pieces, and it was ugly.
Billy has always been he runs a high school offense in college. He does, man.
Mm.
This pistol shit don't work. Okay, and it doesn't work. How am I supposed to convince you, Chris, that Anthony Richardson, who was a number 5 or number 4 overall pick, couldn't win 6 games? How am I supposed to convince you that Graham Mertz is going to come in here and do something? Like, I can't. So I do think that they're going to struggle, but they're going to have to let Billy have his time, right? They're going to have to let him stay. It doesn't matter what he does because he's recruiting at such a high level that they're going to have to let him see this through. If he gets to another year and DJ Lagway and that crew is not able to put it together, okay, fire him, then that's fine. But Mike Norvell also had some really bad years, and then now we're talking about Florida State being pretty decent, pretty good. I made a joke about this, but I'm somewhat a little bit serious. I don't know if Vanderbilt doesn't become the 6th team in the SEC East and Florida's not the 7th team in the SEC East, because everybody keeps telling me, oh, Vandy sucks. Okay. All right. Sounds good. I'm with you. But they have recruited and developed really pretty good under Clark Lee. That's a team that would worry me more than anybody, because look, you lost to them a year ago on the road. Vandy on the road. Okay, man. All right. Sounds good. I don't have any faith whatsoever in Florida. None. Zero. Now, do they have dudes? Can they beat you because they can out-athlete you? Yes. Schematically, no, they won't. They're not coached well enough. They're just not. Billy's going to have to take the reins. Someone's going to have to take the reins away from him. I felt like when he got hired, I said this when he got hired from Lafayette, Florida made a desperate hire because they thought LSU was going to hire him, and LSU never interviewed him. They got desperate. So I don't have any faith. We call him, look, I don't know what y'all call him, but in Louisiana, we call him Sunbelt Billy. That's what we call him.
Yeah,
so
Sunbelt Billy has been adopted by Gamecock Nation as well as many, many others across the SEC. Lastly, Blake, we'll get into South Carolina. You talked about your level of faith when it comes to the Gators. What's your level of faith with the Gamecocks? Because this is a team that over the last 2 years overachieved under Shane Beamer. There's no doubt. I mean, the over-under win total year one was 3.5. Last year it was 5.5. This year it's 6.5. But a team that there's a reason the computers hate South Carolina, because on paper they're not very sexy and they don't win games in sexy ways. I mean, Blake, to give you some perspective, they finished outside of the top 100. You speak on the big uglies. They finished outside of the top 100 in rushing offense and rushing defense and led the SEC in turnovers. They still won 8 games. So how do you view them? I mean, do you have faith that South Carolina under Spencer Rattler, all the reports are coming out right now, he's extremely comfortable. He looks great. This is the best he's felt. He said yesterday, this is the best camp I've been a part of, which, it's best shape of my life season, right? Take everything with a grain of salt. But what's your faith level that when you look at South Carolina, and please, I know you won't, but don't hold back. What's your faith level in South Carolina? Do you see them really being a program on the rise, or do you feel like it's been somewhat of smoke and mirrors the first 2 years with Beamer ball and the special teams and the opportunistic defense? Or again, do you think that's something that they are a real threat, and it's something where maybe they don't do it in a sexy way, but the bottom line and most importantly is they find ways to win football games?
It's Virginia Tech at South Carolina. That's what I really think. Virginia Tech outside of Michael Vick, take Michael Vick out of it for a minute. Virginia Tech never won in sexy ways. They ran the ball. They play good defense. And I know that South Carolina fans are aggravated with some of the run defense and run offense, and I get it. But there is some real buzz around Spencer Rattler now. I mean, look, the way if he can eliminate some of the turnovers that he had, that offense is going to be pretty good. Now, one person that I talked to in the SEC, they're already putting game plans to stop Nick Harbor. Now, I don't know what's going on with him and if they're going to get him and how much they're going to get him involved. But I went when Jimmy Lindsey, God bless him, and hope he's recovering well. But when Jimmy Lindsey took over as a defensive line coach, Chris, at LSU, I looked at them and like, man, this isn't really a physical thing. This is a schematic thing. The one thing that worries me the most about South Carolina is schematically, are they able to coach and outsmart the opponent? Because I look like Jordan Birch is an example. I'm like, man, why are you like putting him in a true 5 technique when he's got double tight ends on the outside? Like everybody's like, oh, Jordan Birch stinks. Guys, he got triple teamed in the game against Kentucky. Okay, like or I think it was Kentucky. I'm misremembering if I am. What are we doing? The only thing, I think they got dudes, and I predicted them to be the 3rd best team in the East this year. I thought that they're just look, I just can't do it with Tennessee because of how many points they score, and I get what happened last year. But I think that they're on the rise. I really do. I've told you this before. I'm not sugarcoating it. I picked them to be the 3rd team in the East. I don't know why, though. I just think that Beamer's got the really good culture. I think that he knows what he knows and he knows what he doesn't, and he tries to get people around him that are smart and are able to accomplish things. I think they got better schematically offensively. I'm going to leave that where it may be. Okay, I know you're going to be happy about it, but they did. I just do worry about them schematically on some things and the things that I've seen. So let's see. I do think that they got some guys that can really play. And you know what I love about South Carolina? They play tough. Like that Clemson game was so much fun to watch, man, because they just played like their hair was on fire. Like, we love to be here. When you have a team like that, it's tough to beat them.
Blake Ruffino of AYS Sports. Blake, I'm going to leave you with this, a little bit of a teaser, if you will, that'll drop Monday, probably for us on social media in regards to predictions, what have you. I'll be dropping my college football playoff predictions and national championship prediction. And this is a teaser, not just for you, but the entire audience. But I thought you'd get this would tickle your fancy, if you will.
Okay.
My national champion is someone not named the Georgia Bulldogs. I'll just leave it at that. So I'll leave you with that, and we will conclude. We will
come down to the bayou, baby. Get you some crawfish and boudin. Okay, you know that you're in Louisiana when we're frying rice. Okay, like we put rice in balls and deep fry it. Okay, it's seasoned, baby. Yeah. Man, if we win, people are gonna block me on Twitter.
Blake, you're the man, dude. I truly appreciate you. It's always a pleasure to talk ball with you. Let's make this certainly during the season. Let's make this a more common occurrence, man. This is a good time.
Absolutely. Good talking to you, buddy. We'll talk soon.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you. We'll talk soon. Great stuff, guys. Blake Ruffino, AYS Sports. And let me say, I do apologize for the technical issues that hit us during that conversation. Have no idea what happened. Our streaming platform just took a major crap on us for some reason. Either way, the hackers can't stop us. We go into the Q&A Power Hour, taking your questions, your comments, your calls, all that and more on the other side of the break. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow. The Daily Crow is brought to you by our friends at Carolina Cigars. Carolina Cigars has been in operation since 2008, recently taken over by the Peterson family in 2020. Whether you're new to the cigar scene or whether you've been enjoying cigars your entire life, Carolina Cigars has the expertise and knowledge to make your visit to their shop enjoyable. Stop by for a fine cigar and experience their classic cigar lounge where people come together, share conversations, and become friends. So if you're into cigars and you're on Hilton Head Island, you really do need to go by and see them. They offer same-day shipping nationwide, free delivery island-wide for weddings and all special occasions. They're also proud to offer premium cigars at 9 outside humidor locations around Hilton Head Island, and they have special events throughout the year as well. They want to talk to you. They want to engage. They want to share with you their cigar selection they're very proud of and their beautiful cigar lounge. When you're in the Low Country, there's only one place for cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, and there's only one place I get my cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, Hilton Head Island's premier cigar merchant. Come and share your passion. It's all here at Carolina Cigars. Give them a follow on Instagram at Carolina_cigars, or give them a call today at 843-681-8600. That's 843-681-8600. Smoke them if you got them, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya. The Daily Crow is also sponsored by Rhine Law Firm, LLC, principally managed by James R. Rhine Jr., located at 1350 Ashley River Road, Suite 650, Charleston, South Carolina, 29407, serving the greater Charleston area.
Muscle Dougie, ho.
All right, guys, I'm back here on this Thursday, August the 17th, 2023. Guys, I want to say thank you yet again for always rolling with the punches, especially through some of the technical issues that we may deal with. Not sure what's going on with our streaming platform today, but either way, we're still here, rock and rolling. And again, I appreciate each and every single one of you. With that being said, we have reached our Q&A power hour. Taking your questions, comments, calls at 843-790-3377. That's 843-790-3377. I want to say again, thank you to Blake Ruffino, AYS Sports, for taking the time to chat. Always a pleasure to get his feedback, his takes on everything, not just LSU, which he does a great job talking LSU, but SEC football as well. Again, guys, would love to hear your thoughts. Brewer Nation, I see you, by the way, my guy. You got LSU winning the SEC, Clemson winning the ACC. That's our guy, Brewer Nation, who posted his predictions on Twitter. Anyways, guys, 843-790-3377. I'll say this, too, about the Pup Howard stuff, because I'm seeing more on social media. I'll say this about the Pup Howard stuff. I like Pup Howard a lot, and I want him to play, and I think he's got freshman All-SEC written all over him. But, guys, the success of South Carolina's season is not going to come down to a single freshman linebacker. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just saying that, like, the reaction last night did not fit the what's going on. You know what I mean? So I'm going to leave it at that. Let's get into your questions, your comments on YouTube. Ethan K said this: what I've noticed over the years, our defensive backs have the most swagger and confidence of anyone on the team. Skill and recruiting ratings are important, but the attitude on the field can give that extra fire. You're right. I mean, Ethan, you have to have that belief, no doubt. My brother, Steven, what's going on? What's up? What's up? John Edwards says, we haven't heard from Dale in a while. Not sure what Dale's doing. Yeah. He got his feelings hurt when I hung up on him that one time, I think. Mantis says, hopeful for improved interior and edge line play will make the secondary look even better if that improves. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Billy Thompson, what are the odds we win double-digit games, including a bowl game? So 9-3 with a bowl win. I mean, is it possible? Sure. I think it's very, very, very unlikely, but is it possible? Sure. I don't think it's going to happen, though. I think 8 wins in the regular season, a 9th win with a bowl game, is about the ceiling for this team, just in my opinion. So Hunter Johnson says, not sold on O'Donnell Fortune. He had a decent bowl game, but got cooked all year long. He's a question mark, Hunter. I mean, there's no doubt. He's a question. He's a question. Had a nice bowl. You hope that bowl game is going to spark him. That's the big thing. You hope that bowl game is going to spark him, because you're not totally wrong. You're not. You're not totally wrong on the season he had last year. Mantis says, I think Fortune takes the next step. Got to be confident with DQ and Nick behind them. Spalding is a name a lot of folks don't give enough credit to as well. I feel good about the secondary, as you should, I think, Mantis. I think it's a solid group. Billy Thompson says, ain't nobody here care about LSU. Well, Billy, that's tough because I like talking ball and like talking about other teams, and you might want to get used to it because we're going to be doing that all season long. Just saying. Just saying, my friend. Just saying. Mantis says, have you seen the muscle that Marcellus Dial has put on? Dude works his ass off. Don't sleep on him. I have not seen it. Guys, anybody who left a question in the first hour, by the way, if you could relieve that question, because I think when we had to refresh our stuff, I don't have any questions before 12:54 p.m. So you guys bring the heat. Bring the heat. And we'll get after your questions. So anyways, guys, 843-790-3377. So excited for game week to finally be here. Of course, guys, in case you missed it, TDC will rock normally tomorrow, noon to 3. We'll talk position unit preview series, kickers and punters. That'll be a fun one. We're going to cram it all into one day. We're going to break down these specialists, talk, we'll leave it at top storylines. Season will be successful if an overall grade, because I mean, guys, the most approved, best overall, I think we know who those guys are. I think we do, right? I think we know the best overall is, who has the most approved. I guess if you want to talk returners, you could, but we're going to skip over all that and get into the important stuff when it comes to the specialists, if you will. Anyways, though, we'll be live noon to 3 tomorrow, wrapping that up, position unit preview series, putting a pin really in all the preseason content. Really exciting stuff. And it's exciting to say that. It's been a fun off season, a fun preseason, but tomorrow we will officially put a pin in it and get ready for week 1. Of course, yours truly going to be out of town next week. No TDC all week long. Podcast will drop. We have great conversations and interviews lined up for you guys, but no TDC all week long. And of course, we'll be back that Monday of game week as we get ready for the Gamecocks and North Carolina going into week 1. Going to be a lot of fun. Going to be a lot of fun for sure. Andy Cohn says, I'm fired up about this football season. Not sure what to expect from our team this year, but you got to feel good about where this club is headed. I feel good about it. I think there's major question marks also. Some people don't realize it's possible to feel both. I'm as I'm going through these fall camp updates and talking about fall camp and things players are saying, I mean, guys, I'm fired up for sure. I'm excited for it. How can you not be, right? The buzz, the energy, the excitement around South Carolina. But on the other side, I try not to get too caught up in it because, again, everybody's undefeated right now. Everybody's good right now. Nobody's dropped a pass. Nobody's fumbled a football. Nobody's thrown a pick. Nobody's lost a game. And so everybody's good right now. Everybody's undefeated. Everybody's going to overachieve. Everybody's going to win 10 games. But there are real question marks. There are real question marks that they must be addressed and must be addressed early. So, John Edward, how would you compare DJ Swearinger and Nick Imawari? Different players, John Edward. I think DJ Swearinger is his own thing, man. He's just he's completely his own thing. So, but both very good players. I'll say that. Both very good players. Mantis says, let Loggins cook. Indeed. Spur Daddy, I get tired of the typical Gamecock websites other than TSUS giving who's practicing who isn't every day. Let the boys practice and get ready. When game 1 gets here, tell us who's out then. Yes, Spur Daddy, man, I don't do that every day, but I mean, I will say I posted a tweet this morning, and the only reason I did that is I feel like it's relevant information. I'm not trying to obviously stir up controversy or get people riled up, but I mean, it is relevant information. Like, people want to know. You know what I mean? People want to know. I'm not telling you they're going to be out for an extended period of time. I'm just telling you, if Nick Harbor's not at practice, I'm curious as to why he's not at practice. Like, I feel like that's, something fairly notable. You know what I mean? Like, and, if he returns to practice tomorrow or whatever, and I guess the media won't be there, like, it is no big deal, but I don't know. Why was he not at practice? It's just like, I don't know why he wasn't at practice. You know what I mean? So, yeah. But, I mean, I get what you're saying, Spur Daddy. I know it gets exhausting. And it's like I mentioned top of the show, guys. Like, what sucks is that no practices are open to anybody. So we can't go out there with our own eyes and see and evaluate and make an opinion for ourselves. So you're reliant on the Big J journos, the media, if you will. You're reliant on them asking these questions that are, I mean, you're not going to go in there and try to grill a guy in fall camp, right? And like grill the coaches and everything. But like, they're very just coach speak, like best shape of my life season speak. So unfortunately, Spur Daddy, like the needle mover this time of year is solely injury reports and who's practicing, who's not, who's in a blue no contact jersey, who's not out there, like who's questionable for game 1. Like, those are the only things that are really moving the needle. And that kind of sucks. That kind of sucks. But it's just the reality. Because the only goal of, and here's why, the only goal of fall camp, guys, from the fan perspective, right? I mean, the team obviously putting in the work, preparing for UNC, but the number one objective of fall camp, I don't care about how many times you say how comfortable you are or what, like those things are all great to hear, but just get through fall camp healthy. That's it. If I could have one thing in fall camp, just get through it healthy, man. Just get through it healthy. That's it. So, anyways, Brian Alexander, any top names injured? The only injuries are just situations right now, Brian Alexander. I would say that we should be keeping an eye on that could be significant. I think the Juice Wells thing, I'm not saying panic. I'm not saying DEFCON 3, right? Like Beamer said, I'm not saying panic, but that's a storyline to follow. Like your best playmaker is not practicing, hasn't practiced in some time. Does he return next week? Is he out another week? Like, what does that evolve into? I'm not really worried about Pup Howard. I mean, I told you guys top of the show what I've been hearing, and it's nothing to really be concerned about, I don't think. So I'm not worried about Pup Howard. You know, Terrell Dawkins, Tyreek Johnson, those guys are in no contact. I mean, it's not really surprising, unfortunately. I mean, Trey Knox has got a big brace on his knee, but he's practicing. So, I think Juice Wells, Brian Alexander, that's the one to keep an eye on. I think the rest of them, typical nicks and bruises that you get in fall camp. That's kind of where I'm at. Kind of where I'm at with it. So, let's see. Bruin Nation, Jaden Rashada, potentially to be starter Arizona State, the $13 million kid. Wow. Okay. Seth, talk 2024 recruiting class. I mean, it's trending well, Seth. I mean, you picked up Dylan Stewart. That was the big one. 6 days from today, Daniel Hill, the 4-star running back, will make his announcement. He said a couple of days ago, South Carolina is his favorite. We shall see. That would be a huge pickup. I think it's a must get for South Carolina, really, truly. I think it's a must get for South Carolina. It's a position of need. It's a guy you absolutely need to land. So, but I think they're in good, Seth, I'll say, I think they're in good position to have a really, really strong 2024 class. I really do. Peyton Smith, hot take. USC gives up 1 sack and UNC gives up 3+. I'll take it. Mantis, I get irritated with the injury stuff. Pup has been there since last December. Him in a blue jersey and a big issue. Dude is going to play. Coach is going to be smart with impact players. Indeed. And then looking into the tweet, just, I don't know. I would not advise it. Ryan Cothran. I'm hearing a lot about Duke potentially upsetting Clemson week 1. Are they that much improved? Ryan, I mean, Duke's a team that lost a lot of close games last year. We'll see. I'm not picking Duke to pull the upset. The spread in that game is 12.5. The spread in that game is 12.5, which I think is interesting. I could see it being a close ball game, back and forth ball game. I mean, it's in Durham. How much does that really mean? I don't know. But I think it could be a really close game. I do. I think it could be a really, really close game. Anyways, guys, 843-790-3377. That's 843-790-3377. Let's see. College football playoff predictions from our guys. Southeastern 14. Blaine Gilmer has Georgia, Michigan, LSU, and Washington in his Final Four. Champion, Georgia. Blake Lavelle has Georgia, Michigan, LSU, and Texas. His champion, Georgia. And Chris Lee has Georgia, Michigan, Alabama, and Florida State. And his champion, you guessed it, the Georgia Bulldogs. All three have an all-SEC final. Gilmore and Lavelle have Georgia, LSU. Chris Lee has Georgia, Alabama. So, guys, I'll be dropping my college football playoff predictions on Monday. Full playoff as well as national champion. So, look forward to that. Jeff Gullidge, when are we playing our bowl game? A great question, my friend. A great question. Let's see. And who won in the poll, by the way? We posted this poll yesterday. Let's see. Who are we going to play in the bowl game? Let's see. Where is the poll? Did I not post it yesterday? Or was it 2 days ago? Oh, here we go. Okay. So the poll has 3 hours left, but I think it's safe to say who the winner is. The votes are in, about 516 of them. 43% of you want to see South Carolina play Southern Cal in the bowl game. 33% want to see Oklahoma. 17% said Wisconsin, and 6% said others. So, the battle of the USCs, South Carolina, Southern Cal. I mean, we could do that today, but it would be around 6 o'clock, I think, because we've got a conversation at 8:15 tonight. I have to eat dinner, of course. So, I mean, I'll tell you this. I say either 6 tonight or like 5 o'clock tomorrow. It's going to be more of an afternoon game. So I don't know, guys. Just stay up to date. We will find a time. We'll just stay up to date with it. We'll find a time and we'll knock it out and we'll make it happen. So we'll make it happen. Brewer Nation, his playoff. LSU, Southern Cal, Georgia, Michigan. Michigan is losing to Georgia. Georgia makes it 3 straight. Okay. Brewer Nation, I put other. People could have voted other if they wanted Maryland. I didn't really want to play Maryland. We did Maryland last year. We did Maryland last year, so I'm just like, I'm not really feeling the Maryland game again. Guys, let's jump into a quick break. On the other side, we'll keep the conversation rolling. Your questions, comments, and more on the other side. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow. The Daily Crow is brought to you by our friends at Carolina Cigars. Carolina Cigars has been in operation since 2008, recently taken over by the Peterson family in 2020. Whether you're new to the cigar scene or whether you've been enjoying cigars your entire life, Carolina Cigars has the expertise and knowledge to make your visit to their shop enjoyable. Stop by for a fine cigar and experience their classic cigar lounge where people come together, share conversations, and become friends. So if you're into cigars and you're on Hilton Head Island, you really do need to go by and see them. They offer same-day shipping nationwide, free delivery island-wide for weddings and all special occasions. They're also proud to offer premium cigars at 9 outside humidor locations around Hilton Head Island, and they have special events throughout the year as well. They want to talk to you. They want to engage. They want to share with you their cigar selection they're very proud of and their beautiful cigar lounge. When you're in the Low Country, there's only one place for cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, and there's only one place I get my cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, Hilton Head Island's premier cigar merchant. Come and share your passion. It's all here at Carolina Cigars. Give them a follow on Instagram at Carolina_cigars, or give them a call today at 843-681-8600. That's 843-681-8600. Smoke them if you got them, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya. Daily Crow is also sponsored by Rhine Law Firm, LLC, principally managed by James R. Rhine Jr., located at 1350 Ashley River Road, Suite 650, Charleston, South Carolina, 29407, serving the greater Charleston area.
Myself Dougie, ho.
All right, guys, we're back here on this Thursday, August the 17th, 2023. Hope you're all doing well. We're taking your questions, your comments, your calls. 843-790-3377. That's 843-790-3377 here on this Thursday. Somebody texted in, thoughts, how thick are his garnet glasses? Don't know if he's a South Carolina fan or what. Somebody in the Southeastern Conference Facebook group posted their predictions on playoffpredictors.com, and they had South Carolina going 12-0. My man, it's not even garnet glasses at that point. It's just you're just doing it to do it. That's it. So, anyways, whatever. We had a text here a couple days ago. It doesn't matter that we aren't ranked. Either way, the winner week 1 will be, and the loser will not be. So, good point. Very good point. Lynn Turner says Trojans versus Cox made for some amusing bumper stickers back in the day. I'm sure it did. I'd have to imagine so. Gamecocks on Gamecocks is going to be a lot of fun this season. Gamecocks on Gamecocks. Going to be a blast. Going to be a blast for sure. Hey, I'd love 12-0 also. Nick says, I have faith in Duke to cover. Speaking of that game against Clemson. 12.5. I hope it's a good game. That'd be a fun way to end the first weekend of college football with a game like that. Like a really good, close back and forth. And also, we'd just love to see Clemson lose. Seth, does Klubnik have a worse year than DJ? And do Clemson fans miss him this year? I don't think so. Seth, I don't think so. I think Cade Klubnik will be an upgrade at quarterback. Yeah. Lynn Turner said, I predict there will be as much orange as blue in the stadium in Durham. You're probably right. Jeff Gullidge, are you going to keep Rat at QB1 or is that a tune in and see? And then Bruin Nation said, Sellers got to be QB1. Rattler's getting ready for the combine. I don't know. I hadn't thought about that. I mean, here's the thing, guys. We're doing the simulation. They're going to play Caleb Williams. Do you not want us to play Spencer Rattler? I mean, for the sake of the simulation, are we going to put in Southern Cal's quarterback also, or backup quarterback also? I mean, what do you do in that situation? I say we just go full strength themes. I say we go full strength. Normal, mano-y-mano, do the damn thing. Let's see. All right, here we go. Let's jump to the phone lines here.
Call from
Robbie Davis, the only real Hall of Famer.
to accept, press 1.
Robbie Davis, what's going on, my friend? How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I figured I'd try to get my call in before I decided to get something to eat. I think 3 things that are very important to the success of this team is obviously how Rattler performs in week 1. That will tell us a lot about how he's going to probably do this season. Even though North Carolina's defense is not that great, I think it'll tell us a lot about how he's going to approach this season, and we'll really see what the front 7 of the defense is looking like. If our front 7 does not put pressure on Drake May from start to finish, possibly could end up being a shootout. I don't want it to turn into that. I want us to dominate the line of scrimmage. Of course, that's cliche. In order to win a game, you got to win the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. And as a lot of people have said, there's not just two phases when it comes to football with offense and defense. You also got to have pretty good special teams. And ever since Beamer has gotten here, we have had some pretty good special teams plays happen. And I think that could possibly be one of the turning points in the season opener is if Beamer ball shows up, I think we will definitely have a chance. And if our punter can put that North Carolina offense in a situation where they got to go 80 to 85 yards, I think we can take care of business in Charlotte.
I mean, I definitely think special teams will play a major role, man. It always seems to do so for South Carolina, so I would expect nothing less.
And and one of the things that obviously we're all very concerned about is how the front seven performs, because like you said earlier on in the show, if your corners or safeties are your leading tacklers, that's not good. That basically is telling everyone that you're going against, run the football. That's what I would do. I'd run it until I stopped getting 4 to 5 yards a pop. If I'm a coach and I'm running the ball every time and I'm getting 4 to 5 yards a pop, I'm running it to stop it. We've got to get North Carolina into obvious third and the next county kind of passing down. Okay, if we do that, the front seven can pin their ears back, go after Drake May, and knock him on his butt. If we can knock him on his butt more times than not, and we rattle him a little bit, he'll make a mistake. We'll get a turnover or two probably, and we can put the game away and walk out of Charlotte 1-0.
I'd agree. Getting after Drake May is a key. Robbie, I think honestly today to more important issues, your reactions to Chick-fil-A introducing the new honey pepper pimento chicken sandwich accompanied with a caramel crumble milkshake. Zaxby's, you are now on the clock.
First of all, I would never put honey on a sandwich. Who in their right mind does that? Now, the other two things I'd probably put on the sandwich, but honey? No. Honey does not belong anywhere near a sandwich. Nowhere near a sandwich. At all.
I don't know, my guy. I might have to go try it for myself. I don't know.
Now, will I probably try it just to see if it's any good? Yes, I would probably try it. And if I like it, I like it. If I don't like it, then I'm not going to like it. Which my mother would tell you, there's not too many foods that I don't eat. And one of the foods I definitely stay away from is broccoli. I am not a fan of broccoli. I don't care if you cover that thing in salt and pepper or put cheese on it. I will not eat broccoli whatsoever.
Will not
I don't
eat
like
broccoli.
The texture of it. I won't. I'll eat lettuce, tomato, spinach, even probably fried cucumbers, but I will not eat broccoli whatsoever. And my intentions for the game against Furman, I've already made up my mind. I'm most likely going to wear my To the Moon shirt. If it's not too hot. But if it's too hot, I'll probably wear my shirt I got for my birthday that has my last name on it.
I love that.
So
I appreciate
I've
you,
already
Robbie.
got it
I
figured out.
appreciate you doing that.
And one way or another, I'm going to eventually get me a Beamer Ball hat. I'm going to order me one.
They're available now, my friend. They're available now. So.
And you're going, and by the way, you're going to the Braves game next week, right?
No, I went last night.
night.
I went to the Braves game last night.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah.
thought you were going this week.
Yeah, we had a really good time, man. It was last night we went and watched the Braves get the 2-0 win over the Yankees. So that was a good time. Good time. A lot of fun.
But that's all I got. I'm ready for this next week to get over with, because then that means we're in game week if my math serves me correctly in my head.
It does, Robbie. 16 days, my friend. 16 days. Cannot wait.
Oh man, I'm ready for these 16 days to get over with. I guess I'll just I guess on Saturday I'll watch my Steelers play the Bills. They play a preseason game against the Bills on Saturday night at 6:30. So I guess I'll watch that, since I probably ain't got nothing else better to do. But that's all I got. And I will talk to you tomorrow. Go Cox, and to heck with Clemson.
Robbie, the man. I appreciate it.
You too, buddy.
Yeah, man.
All right.
Take care. Robbie Davis, the legend that he is. Good stuff. Really good stuff. John says, Robbie with the battle armor report. No doubt. No doubt. Yep. No doubt. Dale from East Tennessee. He says, hang up the damn phone. Dale's in the chat. What's going on, Dale? John Eber was asking about you, Dale. Jacob E. Robbie, no broccoli. Come on, dog. All right, let's jump to the phone lines here.
Call from
Peyton.
Peyton, what's up, man? How are you?
Good. How about yourself, Chris? What's going on, man?
I'm doing well, man. I appreciate you asking. What's up?
So, in the nature of preseason hot takes, I've got one for you.
Mhm.
I know I laid one in the comments earlier, but I got another one for you. South Carolina goes undefeated in the month of November. I think it's a little on the hot side, just because of the simple fact that we play Clemson at the end of the year. But I think it's a probable take also. So I think we definitely got a big favor thrown our way when we got 0 away games for the whole month of November. And I think that'll work in our favor. But like I said, hot take. South Carolina goes undefeated in the month of November. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking to myself, I wonder how many other teams in college football, how many other teams close out with 4 straight home games. That is quite the it's quite the luxury to have. But you know, I would say your take. I certainly wouldn't call your take a hot take. Maybe it's somewhat bold, but I mean, I think it's very doable. I mean, you know, 2 of those games are against Jacksonville State and Vanderbilt. You feel like those should be wins, no doubt. Kentucky's a toss-up game, coin flip game that I think certainly on the home field that, you know, Gamecock Nation no doubt expects it to go South Carolina's way. And then, you know, you've got Clemson, who you beat last year on their field, right? So, and we know that based off of what Shane Beamer has done, Shane Beamer and company have done to this point, that, you know, they'll be playing their best football come season's end. So, you know, is it bold? Sure. But I think absolutely it could happen. I mean, I think no doubt it could happen. And, you know, South Carolina could find themselves in a position to rattle off 4 straight wins. And what a finish, obviously, to the season that would be.
Right. Yeah. I mean, to finish that way, I mean, I don't see if we perform that way at the end of the season, I don't see why you don't beat Florida, or I don't see why you don't beat Florida and you don't beat Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if we close out going 4-0, I think that puts us in a pretty good position to get probably the best bowl game we've had since, I don't know. I mean, they're all kind of the same after the New Year's Six bowls.
Mm.
I mean, in terms of like
the ReliaQuest, the Gator Bowl, the Outback Bowl or whatever. I think that'll prime us for a very good bowl game, and hopefully, South Carolina. As a Carolina fan, I'm not really accustomed all that much to losing bowl games, but I'll say this: if we close out going 4-0 in the month of November, I think we win the bowl game, no matter who they pair us up with. I think we'll be able to carry that momentum. Now, there's always a question mark as to, who sits out for the draft or who transfers and this and that. But I still think, if you close out strong like that, I think you win the bowl game.
Yeah.
And I think that puts us I think that'll give us that 9th win. I got us going 8-4 in the regular season, and I think I think we'll have 9 after the bowl game. So.
And a great season that would be indeed, Peyton, no doubt. I mean, I would say that it's it's tough to predict the bowl game before the season starts, just because really the main reason is bowl games become such a crapshoot. I mean, look at last year. I mean, that was a shell of South Carolina's team that we saw, because of all of the movement in the transfer portal and guys opting out and what have you. So, but to your point, man, I mean, it's to be in a bowl game and have the opportunity to win a 9th game it'd be incredible. So it'd be an awesome season, and fingers crossed. You're right, my friend. But sir, I do expect South Carolina to finish the season strong. I think they'll do exactly what they've done again under Shane Beamer and play their best football on the stretch. And that's one thing they've done, from week 1 to week 13, the improvements are glaring for South Carolina football over the first 2 years of the Shane Beamer era. And I'd expect nothing less. I think that, I think it sets up very nicely, I'll say, to finish the season in style and finish it in a big way and set yourself up for a really, really nice bowl matchup.
That's for sure, man. Well, I'll go ahead and get off, man. I'll holler at you later date and time. Thanks for his episode. Go Cox, buddy. Thanks, Chris.
Peyton, you're the man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man. Take care. Great stuff from our friend Peyton. Always a pleasure and a blast to hear from him. Guys, phone lines are open. 843-790-3377. That's 843-790-3377 here on this Thursday. Let's see. Brad Crawford of 24/7 Sports just tweeted this out. Quote, "One of the best practices I've ever seen from a freshman quarterback." Text about Gamecocks Lenora Sellers, who's giving South Carolina staff a lot to ponder this month. Wow. Isn't that interesting? Lenora Sellers turning heads at fall camp. I mean, it's no doubt Spencer Rattler's team, but that is very, very interesting. Very, very interesting indeed. Dale from East Tennessee says, Gamecocks going 8-4 this year, lost to Old Smoky, Georgia, Missouri, and Florida. So Dale has locked in his prediction. Gamecocks at 8-4, though. Jay Shock simply says, spot the damn ball. I hear you, man. Jay Shock, I cannot wait, my friend. The offseason, the preseason, it's been a blast. Don't get me wrong. But I'm so happy that we get to put a pin in all the preseason chatter. See, last year and the previous years, you guys may have noticed, last year and the previous years, I had carried preseason content all the way to game week. So, like, it would have been like Wednesday of game week, and we're finishing up the position unit preview series or what have you. I wanted to make sure this year, I was like, you know what? let's just get all that out of the way. When we get to game week, let's make the focus game week, right? So I'm excited for that, man. I mean, again, tomorrow we'll close out the position unit preview series. We'll close that out. We'll talk specialists, kickers, and punters. And, with that being said, we'll conclude that. Preseason will be over. Yours truly going to take a little hiatus, going to Montana for a couple of days. And, guys, we get back on Saturday of week 0. I'll be locked in watching Vandy in Hawaii, and we're on, man. We're on. We're rocking. We're rolling at that point. Cannot freaking wait. Guys, we're going to jump into one final break. On the other side, we'll close out the show in style. More of your questions, your comments, your calls, and more. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow. The Daily Crow is brought to you by our friends at Carolina Cigars. Carolina Cigars has been in operation since 2008, recently taken over by the Peterson family in 2020. Whether you're new to the cigar scene or whether you've been enjoying cigars your entire life, Carolina Cigars has the expertise and knowledge to make your visit to their shop enjoyable. Stop by for a fine cigar and experience their classic cigar lounge where people come together, share conversations, and become friends. So if you're into cigars and you're on Hilton Head Island, you really do need to go by and see them. They offer same-day shipping nationwide, free delivery island-wide for weddings and all special occasions. They're also proud to offer premium cigars at 9 outside humidor locations around Hilton Head Island, and they have special events throughout the year as well. They want to talk to you. They want to engage. They want to share with you their cigar selection they're very proud of and their beautiful cigar lounge. When you're in the Low Country, there's only one place for cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, and there's only one place I get my cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, Hilton Head Island's premier cigar merchant. Come and share your passion. It's all here at Carolina Cigars. Give them a follow on Instagram at Carolina_cigars, or give them a call today at 843-681-8600. That's 843-681-8600. Smoke them if you got them, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya. The Daily Crow is also sponsored by Rhine Law Firm, LLC, principally managed by James R. Rhine Jr., located at 1350 Ashley River Road, Suite 650, Charleston, South Carolina, 29407, serving the greater Charleston area.
Muscle Dougie, ho.
All right, guys, we're back here on this Thursday, August the 17th, 2023. Final 10 minutes or so of the show. We're taking your questions, comments, calls. 843-790-3377 as we close out the Q&A Power Hour. I'd love to hear from you. An exciting week, guys, for sure. Stay tuned, by the way, as we close out the season simulation series. We will be playing the bowl game. I'm not exactly sure when. I got to figure out some things for the next 24 hours or so, like when we're scheduling certain interviews, stuff like that, and work around that. Let's jump to the phone lines.
Call from
Justice.
Justin, what's going on, my friend? How are you?
Doing good, Chris. How about you?
I'm doing fantastic, man. I appreciate you asking what's going on.
Hey, Chris. I saw the quarterback for soccer. He did well in practice. I forgot his name. It's hard to pronounce his name.
Lenora Sellers, you talking about?
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah. Yeah, man, it looks like he's making a splash, obviously, with with lots of different folks. So now it's exciting stuff, man. I think that the future of the quarterback position's in good hands in Columbia. So
Oh yeah. Hey Chris, I gotta say my Chris Wares. Now Chris, if soccer was so soft, you cannot be doing this, right, Chris?
if you can't be doing what?
Soccer cannot have slow starts to games.
Oh, slow starts. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, slow starts. I mean, you can't afford it. You can't afford it. I mean, when you think about the fact that, you play North Carolina out the gate and then, some of the others that you play early, you absolutely cannot afford a slow start. You are correct.
Yeah, and Chris, we know Fitzwater got to take care of the football this season because last year he take care of football this September, Mibble.
No, he didn't. He didn't take care of the football most of the season outside of the last couple of weeks. So he's got to do a better job. I mean, he knows that. He said that multiple times this preseason. Now it's just all about will he do it. So, Spencer Rattler's always going to be a guy that he's never going to completely eliminate the turnovers. That's just never going to happen. But limiting those and raising his floor, that's what it comes down to.
Oh yeah, and Chris, and one of the Fitzwater gonna have to realize you got win. And Chris, it's a coach good. You got to go ahead for the win, right, Chris?
You got to, man. Yeah, absolutely. You got to.
Yeah, because Chris, one game's gonna come down to why. So Chris, what game might come down to why in the near future?
You said what game will it come down to?
Yeah.
I mean, I'd say North Carolina out the gate, man. I mean, I think all of them, man. If you turn the football over and you don't protect the football and play fundamentally sound, then you set yourself up to lose for sure.
Yeah, where the game's on the line, right, Chris?
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely, man. Teams are too good. Opponents are too good to turn the football over and get away with it and win.
Yep, I agree, Chris. And Chris, we know North Carolina's not going to throw football that much,
No, UNC is going to throw the football for sure. Their running game is what's suspect. Their running game is what's questionable. So, no, I expect Drake May, man, to throw it all over the yard. And, South Carolina will be a great test for the secondary. And, we'll see how they handle that test. But it's going to be a test, no doubt.
Oh, yeah. Yes, it is. And, Chris, we got some mobile quarterbacks coming. Look at Tuesday quarterback, too. That Joe Milton can throw it too, right, Chris?
Joe Milton can throw it too, man. Got a heck of an arm. Can he throw the changeup? I think that's what's left to be seen. We know he's got a strong arm, but Anthony Richardson had a strong arm and he just was not very accurate. So accuracy over arm strength, but certainly Joe Milton's got the tools to be successful. He's in a great offensive scheme, and we'll see how it plays out. But again, a great challenge for South Carolina.
Oh yeah, I agree, Chris. Hey, Chris, if I got here, man. Hey, Chris, some of us
supposed to happen August 15th. What about Florida State? Nothing happened there, Chris.
In regards to what, conference realignment?
Yeah, Florida State.
Yeah, nothing's happened.
Down, right, Chris?
Nothing's happened yet. Nothing's happened yet. I think it's a situation where they will be getting out of the ACC at some point. They absolutely will. Yeah. I don't know when that's going to be, but it will happen.
Yeah, I agree, Chris. And Chris, everybody, this bowl chose to force it to be me like 2 weeks now, hasn't it, Chris?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's conference realignment's been the hot topic, man. I'm really excited that we're going to get off of that and start to talk some actual ball on the field. So,
yeah, I agree, Chris. I wait too, man. I think the space is over, right, Chris?
It's over, man. The off season, it's coming to an end, thankfully.
Yep. But Chris, that's all I said, man. Take care. Go Gamecocks.
Justin, I appreciate you, man. Always a pleasure. Good stuff as always. Great stuff from Justin. Guys, let me say this. Thank you all so much. Those who continue to tune into the podcast, show love in that regard, man. It's really cool to see the numbers. We had yesterday. We had a 5,000 download day yesterday, and I just want to say thank you all so much. It's really, really cool to see. Let's see. Was that a record-setting day? I think it was. Yeah, it was actually. Yes. So yesterday was a record-setting day download-wise. Our previous record was 5,304. 5,304 was the record. Yesterday, we had 5,363 downloads on the podcast. Thank you all so much, man. I mean, I truly, truly do appreciate it. I truly appreciate it. Cannot say thank you enough. I know many of you probably tuning in right now to TDC Live on YouTube. Y'all probably go back and listen to the podcast. And, I mean, man, I just can't say thank you enough. So, let's see. Anybody who's listening, by the way, who doesn't tune into TDC Live, do so, because the Q&A Power Hour is a really, really good time. So love taking the questions. Guys, don't forget, by the way, also, and you'll see it on social media, all that good stuff on YouTube, but we did announce, I believe it was 2 days ago. Was it? I think it was 2 days ago. 2 days ago that the post-game call-in shows will be taking place. And by the way, I ran into a couple of Gamecocks, more than a couple of groups of Gamecocks at the Braves game yesterday. So let me say thank you to you all. Appreciate you guys. If you were listening, it was great to meet each and every single one of you. But I had many people asking me, hey, Chris, what's your plan for game day? You're going to be at games. And I had to tell them all the same thing. No, we're not going to be at games because we are committed to the content. We are hosting the post-game call-in show following every single South Carolina football game this season. It'll be right here. It'll be right here. It'll be right here taking your questions, your comments, your calls. 843-790-3377. The format will be the same, and it'll be wide open, unedited, unfiltered. Have at it, right? Because the plan is immediately when the game ends, I'm going to do my post-game reaction video, going to get that posted, get that uploaded, and within 10 minutes of the game ending, we are going to go live right here, and it's basically going to be as simple as like, okay, welcome, the TSUS post-game call-in show. We're live. We'd love to hear from you, and from that point, I want the phones just ringing off the hook. It's really for you guys. Like, it's not really – the post-game show's not really – I mean, I'll obviously have thoughts and opinions and say things, but like the point of the call-in show is for calls and for folks calling in. So I can't wait. I don't think that's going to be a problem at all. I think the call-in show, man, is going to get absolutely off of the freaking rails, like truly. So I'm looking forward to it. Cannot wait. It's going to be a blast. Guys, that being said, we're about to hit 3 o'clock. Make sure you're on YouTube. You hit that subscribe button. Hit the bell icon as well, so you get notifications of when we go live, when we drop new video content. Also hit that like button as well. Helps the show, helps boost the show. And also be sure to subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts. Subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcast. Of course, you can find us at the Spurs Up Show. Make sure you're following on social media all around, and stay tuned, guys. Stay up to date with everything. I'll keep you up to date with the season simulation series and any changes or what have you that we have in content, what have you. But either way, guys, truly appreciate each and every single one of you. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Have a great rest of your Thursday, and we will talk to you all tomorrow.